Nope. Mr. Homicki? Mr. Dean?
Here.
Mr. Allard?
Here.
Mr. Edwards?
Here.
Ms. Antoniak?
Yes.
Mr. Silver?
All right, so we got 9 of us, right? So we're all participating at this point. Application 3.1, public hearing. It's application 1945-17-Z, the Borden. Would you be giving us a presentation tonight? Should we try and,
Yeah.
we'll get rid of this then.
Good evening. For the record, my name's Megan Hope. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Altern, Pearson, and Glastonbury. I have a PowerPoint, but it doesn't seem like the screens are working, so I did pass out paper copies. So we can, I guess, just go through that, put the screens up. Here with me tonight is also Marty Kenny of Lexington Partners. He's the proposed developer. We have Mark Vertucci from Fuss & O'Neill, our project traffic engineer, Corey Garrow and Kevin Johnson from Close Jensen & Miller, and also Matt Koenig, our architect from Barton Partners. At the meeting on May 16th, it was continued to address the staff comments that we received in the form of 3 memos. One was from planning, the other was from the engineering department, and the final one was from fire. I believe on Friday you received a packet of the responses that we provided to the town. So I just wanted to go through a few of the more substantive comments. A lot of the comments were directed at very technical things on the plans, adding notes, darkening contour lines, things like that. So that's all been addressed and incorporated. The only things that I wanted to go through tonight are just more of some of those substantive items that were in those memos. So if you flip to page 5 of the packet I handed out, one of the comments we received from Peter was that he wanted some additional information on the solar carports. If you'll notice on the lower right-hand side of sheet 5 of your packet, that's the location of the solar carport. And if you switch to the next sheet, sheet 6, we included a cross-section view of the carport, as well as an aerial view of the panels. So as you can see, we're going to have 18 parking spaces covered, so it'll be both sides of the stalls, and it'll be 15 feet, 7-foot clearance on one side and about 13.5 feet on the other. So we wanted to include those pictures to the commission. Sheet 7 shows a perspective that we had shown at the previous presentation of the roof. All the area in black where you don't see any of the air conditioner units is where we've placed the solar panels for the roof. So if you flip to sheet 8, all the blue areas on the top of the roof are where we're going to put the solar panels. Those panels only project about 6 inches above the roof, so they're going to be completely covered by the parapet, so you're not going to see those from the street. Okay, we received another comment, comment 14 from Peter, asking for information on the generator and the sewer lift. So I've indicated on sheet 9 of your packets where those are located. And included on the next page are just some details on the generator and also the sewer lift station. So we've provided those. Peter also asked in comment 19 for some additional information on the restaurant and hair salon. Those are the 2 tenants right now that we have been in discussions with. They're serious tenants. We can't provide you with the name of those tonight, but we worked with them to create floor plans for each of those spaces. So on sheet 12 of your packets, you'll see the floor plan of the restaurant. It's got 15 bar seats, 93 table seats, 77 of those are inside the restaurant, 16 are on the outdoor patio. Our proposed hours of operation are 11:30 a.m. to close Monday through Saturday, and then 12:30 p.m. to close on Sunday. The restaurateur will be applying for a restaurant liquor permit with the Department of Consumer Protections, and so because of that, we need to enclose the patio with a fence, so we've included a fence detail as well that will be enclose that dining area outside the restaurant. If you flip to the next sheet, sheet 13, the hair salon space is proposed in the 35 100 square foot retail space. We've included a floor plan for that use, showing the reception areas, the hair stations, etc. So we've included that as well. The next two sheets were requested by the town engineer and also fire. They wanted to confirm that both the WB50 and SU30 templates would work on the plan. So we've included those to demonstrate that the way the engineers have designed the plan, those trucks can flow through the site without any problems. Okay. So we submitted the packet that you received with all our responses. We submitted on June 2nd. On June 2nd, we also received another memo from the town engineer where he had 9 more comments. So we wanted to respond to those to you tonight because we didn't have time to get a submission in before the meeting tonight. The first comment had to deal with traffic. So I'm going to have Mark Vertucci come up, and he'll go through Derek's comment and explain the discussions he's had with OSA today, and then we can move on to the remaining comments that Derek had.
All right. Well, good evening again. I'm Mark Vertucci. Sorry.
The first comment on that memo, June 2nd, at the end of it, I don't understand it. Staff did request that the applicant investigate the feasibility of reducing the overall length of the existing left turn lane, so what that one. Would you show it on, what is it?
Yeah, you know,
Next slide, Joe.
if you go to page 18,
I think that's about what he was going to do.
the following page in your handout on page 18. 7.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. I guess there was a slide eliminated, but it says page 17 on your handout.
17, okay.
Okay.
And it's
So-
the queuing line to Mill Street North?
So, yeah, that's correct. So there is, if you can see on there, there is a northbound left turn lane on the Silas Dean. It's actually about 600 plus feet long, approaching the signal at Mill Street.
Yes, it is a long.
It doesn't need to be that long for the traffic that's turning left onto Mill Street. It really only needs to.
That's the point you're making. You could make it shorter, and what would that do?
Well,
It would be less long.
yeah.
I mean, what's it do? Does it allow you to make anything with your site?
Right. So that's where Derek was going with this comment. He was suggesting, because he has some concerns that our driveways are access restricted. They're right turns in and they're right turns out. So any traffic turning left into the site or left out of the site, the intent is they would go through the cross-access easement to 1160 and then out the traffic signal at Mill Street. But his concern was if somebody was approaching to the site and they pass Mill Street, they don't know where they're going, then they're going to come to the site and they may want to make a left and either make an illegal left or have to turn around further down the road.
That was the point the town staff was making to you, basically.
Right. So what we did is we looked at that left turn lane, and although it is very long, and it's longer than it needs to be to accommodate left turns at Mill Street, there are 2 commercial driveways across the street from the site that it also serves to accommodate. And that is one of the reasons it was made as long as it was to allow for left turns into that property across the street. So one of the concerns that we have with switching it to a southbound left into one of our driveways is then it takes away the northbound left into the driveway across, at least one of the driveways across the street. There's another thing that we considered, and that is what's called a 2-way left turn lane. I'm sure you've seen them, where you can go left, or suicide lane, as some people call it, where you can go left or you can turn left in either direction from the center lane. However, that center lane on the Silas Dean right now is only about 11 feet. And typically when we install a two-way left turn lane, we like to see the width closer to 15 feet. So it's really not wide enough to do that, and I think that's why you've seen, if you go up and down the Silas Dean, you see alternating left turn lanes as opposed to these two-way left turn lanes. That's part of the reason. So what I did do this morning, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we will be submitting to the State Traffic Administration for an administrative decision review on this application. On this project, I should say. That application is going in tomorrow. I did talk with Greg Palmer, who is in the Division of Traffic Engineering at DOT. He will be leading this review for the Traffic Engineering Department, leading this OSTA review. And we'll be looking at the access considerations for this project. And his opinion on this was that he prefers to see the driveways restricted to right in, right out, as we have shown them. Their position is they feel it is safer for the left turns to enter and exit the site, especially given we have the cross-access easement and ability to use the signal at Mill Street. They'd much rather see the left turns go in and out at the signal because it's a safer operation. He also indicated that they typically, their department doesn't like to design for first-time users. So, although maybe the first time you go to the site, you don't know where you're going. This is a residential development. These people are going to live there. They're going to know how to get in and out. There's a hair salon there. People are going to be regulars. So, they're quickly going to know how to get into and out of the site. And if they did pass the site, there's two signals to the south with large parking lots. One of them actually has a cul-de-sac, an executive drive there where they could turn around.
That's kind of their policy, the first time they won't, even though it's a large usage with complications?
They're saying
Well-
they're designing for regulars of the area, so that you know what you're doing.
Right, you're not.
It's a big
It's
impact on the regular situation here.
It's kind of like you try not to design the roads for Christmas traffic, for a couple of weeks a year. It's that sort of thing. So that was his position on that. He did say that obviously these are just his preliminary thoughts, and when the submission comes in as part of the OSTA review process, they'll be taking a thorough look at it. But obviously it's Route 99. It's a state road, so it is. They're going to have the ultimate say, I guess, in what happens here. But they will certainly take into consideration the town legal traffic authority's opinion on this matter. So if there is, if they feel strongly that we need to look at doing something here, they'll take it into consideration. But right now, their position is that they would like to see the driveways restricted to right in, right out. So if you have any other questions on that comment, I can address them. Or other than that, there's a few other outstanding comments that I think Meg will go through that Derek had made as well.
So if you flip to page 18, those are the remaining comments that Derek had in his memo from June 2nd, and all those have been addressed by Close, Jensen, and Miller. I did provide these answers to Derek today via email, so those have all been addressed. We've labeled the temporary construction fence. We've revised the silt fence. We've included the phasing plans on sheet 4. We added the note he requested on sheet 6 regarding the concrete monument. We labeled the hydrodynamic separators, and we added the town approval block on sheet 3. So those were all the outstanding comments that we had from the town. I'm happy to answer any questions that may have come up from this most recent submission or from the meeting on the 16th. I do have a few comments on the proposed conditions of approval that Peter generated earlier today. So I'm happy to address those now, or we can answer questions and I can address that later.
Rich.
Just one quick question. The solar panels on the roof and the ones in the garage, where's the energy going from those?
Marty?
Marty Kenny, Lexington Partners. We haven't decided whether they go to the grid or they go to the property itself. That's something that still needs to be worked out with the solar company. We kind of focused on just getting the specifications together for purposes of this meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that was what I was asking, because if it's going to go to the grid, then I think there's going to be significant additional infrastructure that isn't shown.
If that's the case, we won't do it.
Okay.
Will those solar panels be visible from the street, or will they be at,
Yeah, they won't be visible. They're only about 6 inches above the roof, and we have a parapet that's about 3 feet, so you're not
okay,
going to
so
see
the
those.
roof drainage and everything?
Correct.
Is Mill Street getting repaved?
Mill Street is getting repaved by the town.
Okay.
So we're going to be coordinating with everybody, because I know MDC is doing work in that area, so that'll probably occur first. We'll probably then do the road widening, and then I believe the town's going to come in and pave.
Yeah, item 11, page 2 of the long list. Placing no trees on the Mill Street snow shelf didn't seem to be resolved. How, it just, the trees aren't gonna be planted, the town thinks they ought to be, you don't have the room to do it, an impasse sort of?
Yeah, so we responded to this comment, and our position basically is that after we do the road widening, there's only going to be 6 feet of grass between the curb and the edge of the sidewalk. So we don't feel that it's appropriate to plant trees in that 6-foot strip.
I would kind of agree with you, but I don't like trees in that area sometimes,
And on
town
the,
keeps taking them down all over town.
Right.
so- Because they get too big and they uproot sidewalks and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, somebody, this town staff didn't recommend it. It can't be done, basically, that was the conclusion.
right,
Do you feel that way, Peter?
George, I was temporarily distracted. If you would repeat your question.
I'm sorry, sir.
It's okay.
I just wondered, you guys kind of agree, sort of, there's really, it's something really can't be done.
What was that?
Trees on Mill Street.
Planting trees on Mill Street.
On the north. I don't know that it can't be done. That was the applicant's response to my comment.
How do you feel about it? Since
I don't
they responded to
necessarily-
your recommendation?
I mean, my theory was that we're granting some landscaping waivers anyway, so maybe as to compensate for that, we try. I didn't get a chance to have the town tree warden go out there and give
See
me
if
an
it could be
opinion
done.
as to whether he felt that it was a suitable location or not, but
It may not be. I mean, it's
I
pretty
mean,
narrow in there, I
three-
would think, especially after when you widen it and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
the result is a 3-foot snow shelf, right? 3-foot snow shelf?
6 foot.
Oh, it's a 6-foot?
6-foot snow shelf, then the sidewalk,
Right.
and then there's 1 foot north of the sidewalk before the private property begins for the Marshall's property owner.
Yeah, this is on the north side.
Yeah, it's pretty barren. There's no trees at all there, so that was why I threw that comment in originally. But, so if you're interested in including that, we would want to do that with a caveat that the town tree warden be heavily involved in that opinion, just to make sure, it's a suitable location and whatever species is selected is, likely to survive there.
Is this on the north side or the south side?
On the north side. On the south side, there are poles and other conflicts, so we weren't thinking that side. But the other side, since there's nothing there, the Marshall's parking lot has a bunch of pretty significantly sized trees now on the Silestein Highway side, but nothing on that side.
Are there any lane use signs already in that area?
There's a fire hydrant, I think, over there, and there are probably some lane use signs, but you could, I'm sure, work around them if need be.
That's why you have the tree warden look at it too, right?
That was I just didn't get I didn't get a chance to coordinate with him. He was pretty much all out the last couple of weeks.
Question? question on 13. I'm not gonna go through the whole list, there's just a few of these. that have
Sure.
location. They were supposed to, MDC was supposed to come up with a, something about the guy in water sewer capacity in the area. I would think the sewer capacity ought to be outstanding after putting a new vacuum system going to the Rocky Hill facility. But, hey, why, are they taking their usual long time at doing things?
They are taking a long time. We've been having multiple conversations with them, and I believe that Peter has addressed this in one of the conditions, that before the final Mylars are recorded, we need to provide that adequacy letter. All the informal discussions we've had with them have shown that it's not going to be an issue, and we will have capacity, but I don't have a physical letter to give to the commission, so that's why Peter addressed it as one of the conditions of approval.
As I said, logically, it shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
So let me turn it back to you here, after I remind everybody that you did allude to the fact that Peter has put together a suggested list of issues for us to weigh in terms of the motion. We did ask him to do that last week, so take a peek while she goes over some of it, because obviously you've got some concerns about some of it.
Not too many concerns, I just wanted to add a couple things. Do you want me to go through those now?
Sure.
Sure.
Yep.
For item 1, I just wanted to add, after it says section 5.10, I also wanted to add section 5.5. And let's see here. Comment 4 was the one about MDC, so that's one that I feel addresses Commissioner Oikel's concern. It basically says that prior to submitting the final Mylars, we need to submit correspondence from MDC regarding approval of the site plan for water and sewer, and that there's sufficient capacity for the development. So we agree with that condition of approval.
So clarify for me, what's
Yeah.
5, why do we want 5.5?
Sure.
Oh, consolidating parcels?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say 5.2.
5.2?
5.2, which has to do with the way that the application is approved as a special permit. So I just thought it was, 5.10 is the mixed-use regulation. So I thought it was more comprehensive to say 5.2 and 5.10.
So Peter, did we want to say 5.4? I thought that was actually part of.
510 is the mixed use, so I'm, in terms of what reference,
Okay. Simply
Which is
because
in there.
it comes under 5.4.
5.4 are the dimensional requirements.
Well, while he's thinking about that.
Yeah. I wanted to see if we could possibly add some language to condition 6. It says Mill Street shall be repaved to the satisfaction of the town engineer. As we've discussed previously, the town's going to be doing that paving. We're doing the widening. So I just wanted to make it clear that this condition doesn't mean that we need to repave Mill Street. So I wasn't sure if we could, I did talk with Peter about that. He agreed that the town was repaving it, but I just wanted to make it clear.
Any idea what the timing would be on something like that?
He's obviously going to wait till, the bigger Gulfbrook sewer job is done, so I think the timing of that is coincidental with, or maybe even after.
I mean, just my
So-
only concern is that we're shifting the crown 4 or 5 feet and eradicating pavement markings, and when it's raining, pavement markings that are eradicated look like pavement markings. So it would be nice if it wasn't like a year later or something.
Yeah, I
It's-
can't,
That's the danger that you run into, is that you're shifting the crown potentially half a lane to the south. And then you have pavement markings that are existing that
What?
sometimes when they're eradicated, they actually look like pavement markings in a wet condition.
You might want to discuss that, Peter, a little bit too, because sometimes the town likes to wait a year after serious drainage ditches are filled in. before they repave, even sometimes 2 years, so I mean,
Yeah.
I get a little concerned. You're right.
Mark just indicated also that we're not changing the crown of the road for that widening, so I just want to.
Well, the crown right now matches the existing yellow line, and if we're moving the yellow line over, that's what the plans look like it's doing. We're-
moving the yellow line over, right? Well, we're extending the yellow line, yes.
Right, it looks like
So
because
you're-
when you
so-
look at the existing contours, they look like they're
The crown of the road will end up being in the left turn lane, I guess is what you're
correct,
saying, right?
on the tire, like where the tire would be, the
Mhm.
left tire would be as you're turning,
Right,
if you're turning left
understood,
in Mill
right.
Street. Eventually, usually a crown isn't, like on a street like this, it's rounded off and it's not necessarily the most dangerous condition.
Right.
In this case, I would suggest moving
It's the town, so we could do it. It's
the
just
crown.
a bigger question.
Is that,
It's not necessarily up to the center of the road because you're starting in the same location. Instead of moving it 2-3 feet one way.
yeah, so this, I mean, we're looking at the sheet 4 of 18, showing the crown that's basically following the yellow line. That could just be a result of the survey, because people survey the yellow line instead of a couple shots on either side of the yellow line, so it could be misleading. It's just that then on the next page, we're showing the yellow line being what looks like almost half a lane, maybe 4 feet or whatever, to the south of the existing yellow line. So it appears as though we're shifting the crown so that we're gonna be moving the paint, but then the crown is gonna follow at some
I wouldn't
point.
suggest moving the crown. You see that it starts in the center and it ends in the center of the yellow line. Yellow line.
Uh-huh,
It's only in the middle that it's moving over a couple feet.
right,
But I would suggest moving the crown the same way. Just leave it where it is.
to follow the proposed yellow line, you would not move the crown to that?
There's no reason for it. You'd be changing the drainage areas going through different basins.
Right, but what you're doing is you're taking the grade break and you're putting it outside of the wheel path.
We're talking very few.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that big a deal, I suppose, when you're dealing with,
It's not really noticeable.
I understand.
If the town wants to change the crown when they're repaving, they can do that. I wouldn't suggest it, whatever,
It's probably a bigger deal in like a
yeah.
high-speed situation, but just,
Want the town engineer to evaluate it?
no, I'm fine.
Maybe we could, when we get around to talking through some of these things, maybe we'll revise it to simply say, you know, to be coordinated with town staff when the time comes, right?
Sure.
Okay, let's see. For item 8, that was the comment that I believe Peter crafted to address Derek's comment that Mark spoke of during the presentation. We do not think that that condition of approval is required based on the conversations that Mark has had with OSTA today. So I would propose that that be eliminated and not a condition of approval as part of the motion tonight.
Well, it is just suggesting that they investigate it, and you're doing that, right? So
Right.
when you'll document that fact. You discussed it, and as long as DOT agrees with you, and I tend to think they probably will,
Okay.
right? Check that box.
Okay. And finally, for item 9, the only waiver that wasn't listed here that it is in the materials that we presented was 6.2.c. So just want to make sure that that waiver is added to the list. Everything else that we,
6.2.c.
correct.
What is it?
Sure.
62C. Number of required spaces.
Parking waiver, it's referenced in condition number 2, but if you want to have it here too. Oh, yeah, I see.
And those were the comments that I had on the conditions of approval.
Alrighty.
The large trucks, WB 50s, SU 30s. This commission has always been concerned with that parking lot, and going way back. Now, there seemed to be some issue here, including with the fire marshal. You seem to have resolved it. Is everybody satisfied at this point that the design does accommodate them? I think that's what I sensed out of it, but I wasn't sure.
I had a question on that same, go ahead.
I know you did. Yeah.
I same question because, I assume that also applies to the vertical clearance?
Correct.
So what is the vertical clearance there?
14 feet.
And you can get a ladder truck back there?
Yeah, we checked with the fire marshal to make sure that we had enough clearance. So, yeah, I would presume, especially because Derek wrote the second memo on June 2nd after we had given him the truck turning maps, that he's satisfied with that, because we didn't get another comment back about that.
Okay.
Same thing from the fire. We didn't get any comments back after we provided the templates.
And you have capacity for a four-story building?
Yep, I mean, we've got much larger, and they've added a fire hydrant and a connection to the building, so that seems to address his concerns, although we did not get a memo from him, so.
Another one. This issue of wanting anyone, but particularly truck drivers coming south on the Silas Dean and wanting to turn in, and your item 35 on the list, page 7. I'm not sure what the answer is. That's what I wrote in my notes when I went through this.
Sure, so,
I mean, is there any answer to it? Probably there isn't, because I noticed later on, there's no place to put the signs north of Mill Street on the Silas Dean coming south. Is that correct? Is that what I understand?
yeah, we had, we submitted, if you notice, on the front of the packet, we submitted it initially on May 25th, and then we revised it on June 2nd. But when we submitted on May 25th, we gave that to town staff, and then after we submitted, we met with them to go through, and that was one of the comments that was resolved. They spoke through with Derek and our team if we could place a sign anywhere that would be helpful to somebody driving southbound to get them to turn onto Mill Street. And it was determined that there really wasn't any location where you could post it, because you have 5 lanes there.
Quite a bit there.
And so you really need to alert somebody ahead of time to get into the left turn lane. And so there wasn't a place to put it either on the right side or the left side of the
You have
road.
a lot of congestion going
Right.
in and out of Marshall and Walden, really.
Right.
So that adds to the issue.
Yeah.
The DOT wouldn't allow the sign, the private development sign, to go within the state right of way.
I'm sure they wouldn't.
So then you're looking at putting it on private property.
Okay.
So we
There's
worked-
really not an
yeah.
answer to it, it's just,
Yeah.
it was an attempt to do something.
Yeah, it was an attempt to do something, and I think after we sort of resolved this issue was when Derek came up with that, the first comment from his June 2nd memo about looking to do some sort of left turn lane further down past Mill Street. So, I
A
think,
close gents in the middle will probably allow, John
Yeah.
will probably allow a sign to be put on his front lawn, I'm sure. That's probably not close enough to the street, though.
yeah. Well, and I think it's also a little too close probably to that Mill Street intersection, because you'd have to see the sign and then cross 2 lanes to make the left.
Okay.
Well, they'll all be turning around in his parking lot.
Right.
2 topics. The generator, what is that servicing? And is it quiet enough? And do any concerns about noise? Is it just, exercising it once a month?
So the generator services the common area systems of the building, the elevator, the hallway lights. It's a central corridor. It also services the outside lights in the event that power goes down, that the lighting is still going on outside. It does not heat or cool the building during that crisis. The testing period, it's done on a quarterly basis, to my knowledge.
All right, thank you. So when I was looking at the site plan, the dumpster location, I don't know why it just looks really small. Maybe it's because the plans in general are pretty small in size. So I look at it and go, there's a lot of apartments. Is it big enough? I assume staff looked at that topic.
There are two, if I recall correctly, two designated areas, one for each property. Obviously, if the refuse that's generated, exceeds the capacity, the pickup schedule is just going to have to be, more frequent than it is. It's a tight area back there with the interconnection between the two parking areas. Obviously, that's also something that can be tweaked if need be as they go forward. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're showing 3 proposed dumpsters on 1178, 2 on 1160, so 5 in total for both properties, and we think that it's going to be adequate based on the other projects that Marty has done.
Thank you. I saw a hand up over here.
No, I was just listening about the area frame, because it's a fully, just to confirm, it's a fully sprinkled building,
Yes,
and it's a Maxwell.
yes.
Tom?
A confirmation from Peter on a remark that you made a time ago. If I heard you correctly, you indicated that there, in addition to the new fire hydrant, there's a Siamese connection at the building itself.
yes.
I don't recall seeing that on the plans, but
It's
so
a-
I wanted to make sure that I heard you correctly in your statement.
It's a freestanding
Freestanding connection.
fire department connection, and I think that has been added to the plans. Correct.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
We're done?
One other quick question, going back to the solar panel installation, and the solar panels that are being installed in the, the parking lot sheds, let's say. What's the wind load bearing of the roofs of those sheds?
Okay. Let's see.
What are they just, in terms of wind load coefficient or, velocity of
Yeah, I know
winds?
I saw the wind load
It's
spec.
usually engineered
roof.
to a certain standard, and
Let's see here. I don't know if the spec sheet I gave you for the solar carport shows that. I know that for the roof panels, it did indicate that, I saw that. Let me see here. Yeah, let's see. 2,400 PA wind load was for the roof panels. So that's for the solar array on the roof, so I'm not sure about the carports. I don't have that in the spec sheet that I gave you for the carport panels.
okay. Well, I'm not so much concerned about the panels themselves, but they'll,
The actual
they
structure.
add to the weight of, the roofing of those sheds. And in the event of a hurricane or very strong winds, if they get blown around, they could create some hazards.
So my construction partner has been working with the solar company. I don't have the specifications, and he's not with us here, but I can tell you that these units are used throughout Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, with similar weather patterns and everything else. And these are, structural soundness is something that we really wanted to make sure was there. So I think we've covered that issue in terms of wind and dealing with the trials and tribs of New England weather with what we've spec'd.
Okay, I guess we'll place detrimental reliance on your statements.
So not immediately, oh, go ahead, Yolanda.
I just have a couple of questions. So, just a quick question about illumination. Definitely looks like you haven't, well, first let me just say this. This was really very comprehensive set of plans, a lot of good information, a lot of details. I know that the town staff in your office and the developer did a lot of, effort, and I could see that, so I appreciate that. So that's number one. Illumination. looks like there's plenty of lighting that'll be on both parking lots, but one of the places where they didn't seem to have a lot of lighting was by the dog park. And I wondered if it was a specific reason why just the path was lit, but not the park itself. Was there any reasoning behind that?
Sure. Just the reasoning was that we didn't want people down at the dog park after dark, basically. We thought it could be a possible disturbance to the residents. It's similar to what Marty has done at some of his other projects that have dog parks. So we did light the bollards for that path, but not the dog park itself.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And another thing I was wondering about was the drainage and the drainage layout. And I found it interesting that the way the drainage is set up, Corey, is that the way the site drains as you're driving into the facility, that all the way it's graded, the water will be collected as you're driving in the entranceway, as opposed to draining away from the driveway. Was there a specific reason why you chose to design the drainage so that it's being collected like almost in the center of the travelway, of the driveway?
Which driveway are you referring to?
The northern driveway, the northern entrance.
As you know, the site slopes from north to south.
Yep.
We have to be careful about filling within the floodplain. So we sort of have to follow the grading as to where the basins are located. If you start putting them in the middle, is what you're saying?
Yep, you put them in the middle.
You'd have to go back up and back down. You're going to end up with a situation where we're going to need more fill than we can possibly tolerate on the site. So it really follows the grading that the site wants to be at.
Okay. So I do see that you're filling a lot more as you get closer to Silas Dean, and then
That was one of the
you're
reasons,
almost,
at least somebody mentioned before, that it drops down when you first come in there, so it's sort of have to.
yeah,
And it's got to follow the building too, because the building
Yep.
doesn't step down as it goes from
Yep.
north to south, so.
right. But if you look at, it's unfortunate because you don't have the screen, but if you look at sheet 8 of 18, like the way the drainage is, and I'm sure it's going to function fine, but it just seems like it's draining towards the center of the, and you can just come on over here, Corey, and I could show you because I have it highlighted. And what I was thinking is when you're driving in and it's raining fairly heavy, you might end up with like water in the middle of the travelway rather than being dispersed off to the side by the curbs. That's all.
North driveway?
North.
Yep.
So that's just what I noticed. I have it actually highlighted, and maybe there's a good reason for it. Maybe you looked at other options. But I just noticed that the catch basins are all here. So basically, you're draining this way, right?
Away from the building.
Away from the building, which is good, but I mean, you have this,
Yeah, and away from these guys. You don't want to,
okay.
you don't want them to,
So that's why you
you
located
don't want
here.
to be
Okay,
sitting, you know,
yeah,
yeah.
near ponding and things. So,
This
all right.
side, so we have to sort of compensate for the height too.
Yeah. The other thing too is there might be some, I just want this to grade nice, you know how I am with drainage.
Yeah.
But, but there might be, because you're sloping towards the wetlands on the east side, there actually may be some low spot areas here, unless you don't have any spot
No,
elevations.
so, you see
Or
where
is-
the contours are?
Yeah, here,
See, they're all going down.
so this is gonna go this way.
You see where the contours are?
I didn't know if that would be a low point or
No, no,
not.
no.
But
no,
you
no.
checked for
This-
that?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, because it's gonna go this way.
oh, yeah.
Okay,
There.
okay. And a tough question I have is about the backwater, because you have the brook right there on the south side. Fortunately, their site is higher, the top of frames and the catch basins are higher than the brook. But was there any calculations done, like for backwater calculations, that would tell you like, okay, good, the lot will be dry?
Except in a 100-year storm.
Well, no,
It's
that's
in flood
fine,
plain.
right. No, that I understand, but I mean, for
Yeah,
like a
normal.
10-year storm, you did take a look at that
Yeah.
to make sure you didn't have that adverse effect.
Yeah, Derek is pretty good about reviewing all that stuff.
I saw a very detailed review. Okay. Okay. And I just have one more question about landscaping. I noticed on the landscaping plan, again, very nicely done and well detailed, but I noticed you had a different type of grass on the west side as opposed to the east side of the bank, because I was looking where the outlets were, and I was a little concerned with erosion, but it seemed that there was a different type of grass or.
Different types of grasses for different
Proposed-
elevations, different hydrologies.
Can you
Different,
just talk a little bit more about that?
well, I think the one on the south side,
Yep.
the lower elevation,
Yes.
it's gonna have some different species to tolerate some periodic inundation. Whereas around the dog park and coming around the backside, it's a little higher in elevation. I'm anticipating it's gonna be a little drier, so some different species. And then, of course, the mowed areas, the fescue mixtures, grass, lawn
So
type
that was the
species.
reasoning, not to say that
Right.
it was an error, I was just curious as why you would.
No,
why you
different,
do
different
that.
species for different hydrology.
Okay. Okay, very good, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, that's, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question, just regarding the 1160 access easement. Let me back up a little bit. I think you're asking for a waiver for lighting, the light spillage onto 1160?
Correct.
From the town. Is that in the easement?
I believe it is. Access.
When looking for that, I have a question on parking related to 1160. I think there's 4,000, 5,000 square feet of empty space in that building. Is there a restriction that when that space gets filled in, that they have a limited number of parking based on your calculation of the assumed use of the current space?
Yeah.
Well, the parking study assumed that vacancy rate when we did it. I think we discussed last time, but I think because of the easement agreement, the parking agreement says they have to go back and the zoning. If there's a-
Could you,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just come up.
could you come up to the mic and just, yeah.
Yeah, the first thing I said was, when we did the parking study, we did assume that, that vacancy rate in the calculation, so that it was, everything was parked based on that being fully occupied. I think your question is related to,
In your
that may not be,
calculations, you had 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of that
Right.
empty space will be utilized at the same rate
correct,
of the current building.
right.
Current use.
So your question is,
Whether that's in, does the owner of 1160 know that? Is that in the easement?
yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, as part of, and just maybe to jump back to your first question, so two things. When we submitted the application, both 1178, the owners for 1178 and 1160 both signed the application and the requested waivers. So the owner of 1160 does recognize that there will be light spillage onto his property. And we also feel that it is covered in the easement. If you'd like us to add something even more specific than that, that's something we could do, but he definitely is aware of it because he signed the waiver application, which indicated that there was light spillage between the properties.
So that's in there,
Yeah.
I trust you, I just didn't see it in there. And again, if there's a change of use, but the current use is office space. I'm curious, how many spaces does he have available when he comes to the town and he has a new potential resident or occupancy for that space?
I would have to do a calculation.
Okay, I'm not gonna put you on the
Exactly how
spot.
many were available, I don't.
Come on.
But
Can't
I-
just do it?
And I know, that, I think, he may even exceed that based on the current employees. I think when that new, tenant comes in that building, I'm curious how the town's gonna look at that in terms of number of employees and if they have that number available to be able to accurately evaluate that new tenant.
I also think, Peter, if you look at the proposed condition 3 that Peter suggested, he is sort of, I think, preparing for that situation. He indicates that if there is a change in tenancy of either of the buildings, that the ZEO has to make sure that the parking still works, and if not, it gets referred back to this commission for further review. So I do think that if there is an issue with some sort of change in tenant, that everybody's on the same page, that we need to make sure that that parking analysis still
Some of
works.
my concerns, 1160, when they come in, again,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure they're clear on
Right.
how many spaces they have available, because it's very tight for parking.
Right.
And then in terms of parking as well, how you guys can handle snow storage?
Snow storage, so the plan is to basically stockpile where we can in the landscape islands, which is limited, as you know, from the site plan, and then truck it off. So that, Marty understands that that's what's gonna need to happen for this property.
All right, this time I'm not going to ask if there are other questions. I'm going to move on. This is a public hearing, so I want to get the public's.
Ask me, Mr. Chairman.
No. But before we do, I want the public to hear, and I also want the commission to start thinking about that besides the articles that are listed, 5.4, 5.10, 6.2s, and other places where they're looking for waivers, that this is a special permit and needs to comply with Article 8, which is special permit criteria. And so I'm going to real quickly just go over the topics. 8.1 is suitable location, 8.2 is neighborhood compatibility, 8.3 is appropriate structures and landscaping, 8.4 is suitable access and parking, and obviously we're hitting a lot of these topics, but I want to make sure that you're all comfortable with it by the time we're done. 8.5 is overall circulation, 8.6 adequate public utilities, 8.7 environmental protection and conservation, 8.8 consistent with purposes. And what that is proposed use of the activity will not be detrimental in its effect on public health, safety, welfare, that kind of thing. And then there are other considerations such as lighting, signs, and landscaping and screening and so forth. So just know that when we all have a dialogue about what we're doing with this, it needs to be consistent with Article 8 as well, all right? Is there anybody from the public who wishes to offer some comments on this proposal? Wow, really? Okay. Then we'll take it back. Commission members want to go back to asking questions?
Move to close hearing?
All right. We have a motion to close and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you. Have a seat. So as we said before, Peter has a proposed list of conditions or proposed language for a motion. I've been making some notes of my own on how we might add to it, edit it. I don't know if others have as well. Do we want to start with a dialogue, or would somebody like to actually make a motion?
I'll make a motion just so that we have something to work from. Make a motion that we approve application 1945-17Z with the 11 numbered stipulations in Peter's memo to the commission dated June 6th with following changes. Line 3 of item 1, add after section 510 and section 5.2. In item 3, I would change in the second line where it says change in tenancy. I would say change in commercial tenancy, just so that in case somebody moves out of an apartment, it doesn't look like they have to come back for zoning approval. For item 6, that it be modified to say something like Mill Street shall be repaved to the satisfaction of the town engineer following any work performed by the applicant in conjunction with this project, just so that they don't have to fix it if it's something they haven't done. Item 9 be amended. Huh?
I'm trying to write some notes in. Okay, go ahead.
Item 9, add in the waiver 6.2.c, parking.
Reduction.
Parking reduction as provided in more detail in stipulations 2 and 3 above. And we'll stop with that for now.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second for conversation purposes?
I'll second.
Thanks, Tony. All right. So can I just clarify what your intent was with 6? So what they don't, harm, they don't have to repair. But in the end, I think the way I heard you say it, that the applicant will repave the road if nobody else does.
Isn't that?
Well, then,
And is that what we want, or are we as a town going to say we will, one way or the other, be repairing it when they're done?
well, I guess it's unclear to me, and I think it's up in the air as far as who's going to be doing what first. I mean, if they widen first, and they repave that nicely, and the MDC comes along and digs the whole thing up, I don't think the applicant should have to go back and redo the whole thing over again after the MDC comes through if, it's basically on the town's to-do list in the first place. But if, the MDC comes through, the town paves it, these people are 5 years behind, and then they widen it, if it requires repaving at that time because, they're the last one to do
They're the
work,
last one,
then
right.
it has to be to the satisfaction of the town engineer. With the presumption that they won't be redoing everything that everybody else has done, just the parts that they needed to do.
So I don't know how to make that clearer.
I've
With the records, I agree with that, right? So is the record enough to offer that clarification?
I have some alternate language that I think might provide the clarification.
Okay.
I may be, I would offer this language, that instead of what is written on number 6, that language be replaced by the following: all work carried out by the applicant on or in widening Mill Street will be executed to the satisfaction of the town engineer, consistent with applicable standards and regulations.
Well,
And that definitely puts any work that the applicant does on or about Mill Street, that it has to be performed in accordance with the town engineering standards and the town engineer oversight.
I don't understand. I mean, is Mill Street, are we planning on lumping that with the larger Gulf Brook sort of milling and operation?
After, yeah.
Like is that already planned?
That was testified by the town engineer the last
So
time
right
and
now,
in his
the only
memos.
issue is making sure that that happens after this widening is done.
Right.
Is that relatively certain?
The timing, it's certain that work's going to be done. So the applicants agreed to the widening, the towns agreed to the paving, and the MDC is obviously doing their Gulf Brook interceptor work. The bigger concern that I have is the timing of all of this as it relates to this development wanting to get a certificate of occupancy. I don't want them hung up because everyone else is delayed.
Yeah, let's say the MDC is delayed, for example.
So that's also should be part of our conversation that, I mean, we know it's going to be done. Timing is flexible as in any construction project sometimes, but the town would come in at the end of all of that and pave the road. So how that gets crafted into a memo, a condition, I'm not quite sure, but I think that's the overriding principle here, that those things are done.
And to Rich's point, if the applicant is delayed by 5 years, maybe they would be last, and if they are last, they should be repairing it, right? So does that mean we've come full circle and we like your language? If the town engineer is happy, we're happy? And we leave it on town staff?
Well, I think that was probably what Tom was
Tom
trying
just
to get
wrote,
at,
right? Yeah.
That
Right.
it'd just be done, properly
that when,
according to the
that,
town
that whatever
engineer.
work whatever work the applicant does, that it's gonna be in accordance with the approval of the town engineer and in accordance with applicable regulations and standards.
And
And it doesn't, the intent is not to put time limits on or decree certain things at certain times, but rather that whatever the applicant does, in accordance with, with any work on Mill Street performed by the applicant, that it is done pursuant to the town engineer. I think that's what the applicant has agreed to do, and that's what I think my understanding is from all the testimony that's been provided. That's what the town engineer and other officials have stated, that, they want this work performed in a coordinated fashion with the work that the town intends to do on Mill Street. And whatever the applicant does, that it be done in accordance with the town engineer's stamp of approval and the applicable standards.
Yeah, so maybe I could suggest, rather than modifications to 6, maybe a slight modification to 5. So 5, at the beginning of 5, it says, the Connecticut DOT will replace the traffic signal at Silestine Highway intersection along with the implementation of left turn phasing on Mill Street. Then maybe we should add the applicant shall establish the westbound left turn lane on Mill Street approaching the Silestine Highway extended to accommodate 175 feet of storage capacity. And Mill Street is widened 2 to 3 feet along the north side per the site plan to the satisfaction of the town engineer. And then number 6, the only modification to that is Mill Street shall be repaved by the town, once again to the satisfaction of the town engineer.
unless they're last.
Well, if that,
And it is technically, I mean, in the sequence of activities, it is last. And that's what I was attempting to,
well, I
break
think
out,
with,
but-
with your change to 5, we don't need 6.
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't,
I mean, it can't, I don't know why it would be a stipulation of their approval that the town do something.
that's true.
'Cause they-
I don't think we've got the authority to
That's true.
order the town to
Yep.
do something.
Yeah, I think you had testimony to that effect, and if you take it out, then it doesn't hang up the project. If in fact, it was the last thing to be done and was still hanging out there, we just deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yep.
I think your revision to 5
Yep.
similarly is not time-related.
Right.
It's just, they're gonna widen the road and they're gonna do it to, satisfaction of the town engineer.
Yep.
Whether it's first, second, third, or fourth, that's what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, are they gonna wait till NBC comes through to widen, or are they gonna do it as part of
that's-
their? I think they would widen it now as part of their, and not worry about NBC.
front
Right,
loaded.
because if NBC comes through and messes it up, then they gotta repair it, but I think at least it's widened, you've got the Mill Street capacity at the intersection there. I just don't think you should link it with NBC.
That's a perfect world, but let's say they have a glitch or something on their side, or someone has a glitch somewhere along the way, they probably.
On whose side, NBC side?
On the development side.
On
just
either
say they
side.
got back, I understand what you're saying.
Right.
So let's say the MDC had to come through on their schedule, the road's already repaved and finished just because they had a delay for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then
And they would have
if it's
to- I
all
would-
milled, they'd have to bring it up so it all matches.
Right.
Let's say it was all milled and finished just
I would
because
say they
their
would
time.
come in and leave it in its existing condition, or
So it's
or
all
that-
apples to apples.
or something to that effect,
The-
where it matches the current condition of the road.
The widening is probably more linked with the intersection light and timing
Right.
improvements rather than the utility work, so.
I mean, I guess, as the person making the motion, I'm comfortable with Peter's revision because it's, it's a standalone condition and it only discusses the things that are the developer's obligation.
And take out 6?
Yeah.
Tom, are you okay with that? I'm sorry, Tony.
Yeah.
One second. Okay. Okay.
The only other thing, and I forgot to mention this, and right now, 1178 South Sea Highway is 2 different lots. That line has to go away. So a condition, what is it, 12 or 11?
Be a new number 6.
Oh, yeah, okay, throw it in as 6. Yeah. That the 1178, the lots are combined as a condition of approval.
All right. There were some other thoughts that were kicked around while we were discussing. A tree warden weighing in on the potential for trees on the north side of Mill Street. When I thought it was 3 feet, I was thinking no way. But when they're 6 feet wide, you can put something in there. It doesn't have to be a lot. All it has to do be a couple of them, right? Not a big deal. So if the tree warden thinks they work, would you guys agree with that? Tony? Right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Town staff.
I'm not going to lose sleep over that one.
Right, exactly. And of course, subject to final comments on the plans by town staff, right? That's not really in there, but it's kind of goes without saying.
Well, number 11,
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss one?
number
Is it
11
there?
is a site plan shall be revised.
Sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's a catch-all for, like, they testified and responded to those. We just haven't had a chance to see those details yet, so those were the only outstanding items.
Okay.
All right.
Because it's kind of one of the most leap of faith items on this whole thing, the shared parking. I don't know whether we want to talk about that in any greater detail, because, you know, it's in the discretion of the CEO just to review it, and it may be referred to us. And I don't know whether we want to take any more
Authority.
control of that, you know, in terms of, you know, when it gets referred to us, or are we just comfortable with that, or, I mean, I think the applicant had a good point last time, that it's probably more important to them than it is to us that it work. One other thought I had was that maybe we can have them do an analysis a year after operation, just so that, you know, they can kind of report back to us, you know, this is how it's been working in reality. And if it's working really well and 1160 is completely full, maybe we can just kind of stop worrying about it going forward. But, you know, I know that this is one of the things that a lot of us have been, you know, just kind of worrying about or thinking about in terms of, you know, one of the waivers that it, you know, I mean, trees in the parking lot, we can do that all day long, but I mean, here, you know, you're kind of hoping that a brand-new development and an existing office building are going to be able to, you know, live happily ever after with less parking than our regulations require. And, you know, just things like the fact that almost every other office building on that side of the road, you know, is being turned into medical offices, and we know that they require, you know, significantly more parking than accountants do, that, you know, this might be something that we wanted.
There's one thing that I I think we've all thought about that fully. And my position is that, you know, 1160, they've entered into this voluntarily. Why should we be concerned about their problems? They are not going to do more than is here unless we come back and approve it. They've signed off on the agreement. It's a business decision. I'm happy with it. I'm concerned about maybe the future, but the future is really not our responsibility. It's the owner's problem, and it's a business decision on their part, and I'm willing to accept that.
I'm with you to a point. I mean, at a certain point, if it is a problem, it's going to become our problem, because they're parking at Marshall's, they're parking on the railroad tracks, they're parking on Mill Street, you know.
Well, parking is always going to be a problem. Potentially, you know, we can sit here and say, what if, but we're looking at it, what is here today. And, you know, I wouldn't want to hold up, you know, development and the, you know, success of this project because of, well, what if, given the facts that we have here. I think we've done as much as we can.
I don't think Rich wants to hold anything up, but he wants to think about the future.
But how, to think about the future, if we're going to approve of it, it's approved. Well, what difference to come back and do now. No, I'm not arguing with you. I mean, that's fine.
Well, you are.
Yeah, it sounds like you're arguing with them.
I think the idea of a report coming back is good, it's an educational item coming back.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the first time we're dealing
maybe
with
everything is fine, and then that's the last we ever talk about it.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if the neighbors entered into it and they want to do something with their tenants, then they do the analysis and determine if what they want to do to their building is going to impact the parking.
The way I look at it is the current building that's there, the bank and the office space and that sort of thing, they have a significant investment. I don't think they lightheartedly entered into this agreement. I think they fully know what they're getting into. I mean, obviously, there's lawyers involved from their side, and they know where they're going with their building and the potential ramifications. I mean, Mr. Silver hit it on the head. I mean, they entered into this deal, and this is their neighbor. These people have been sistered together forever. And it seems to me that this is a very intimate relationship between these two properties in a unique way. So I think the landlord and the owner side, the existing office building, know fully what they're getting into, at least from writing and into the contract. I respect Rich's concerns and all that, but I'm not overly worked up about it.
So, Rich, were you concerned about the ZEO having to have some discretion in whether he sends things to you guys for review, or do you want to change the may to shall?
Not the current ZEO.
Okay.
No, I actually was just putting that out there more for discussion than to generate arguments.
Okay.
Because I know that this is something that we spent a lot of time talking about, looking at, and obsessing about. And I just wanted to make sure that, I said what I kind of had as, latent concerns. And if, the commission as a whole felt like doing anything about it, this is the time.
Okay.
I don't think, if the situation is not working out, the report's not going to help us fix it. I guess when you were suggesting it, I was thinking it would be perhaps valuable as a learning tool as we potentially see it, 5 years from now or for another site, or maybe next year with another site, whatever. I didn't really see it as something we could remedy if it's not working out, but if we but maybe we know that intuitively after we see how it's operating, or town staff will be able to tell us intuitively that it's not working without having to do a formal report. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, if there's problems out there, we're probably going to hear about it, or actually going to see about it. You can drive by it every day. If the report will give us some kind of teeth, but at this point, I think it's really the applicant's going to have to deal with it. We've approved it now, assuming we're going to vote on it, let's say. If it doesn't have any teeth, it's really just really for information only.
I mean, and who knows, the ZEO may request the report like that when he decides whether he's going to allow, the third and fourth floors of 1160 to be changed over to medical. I mean, they'll have to prove that they have excess capacity.
They would have to do that. They would have to.
the
That's
power
part
to
of their
do that,
obligation
right?
to come in and prove to us that it's necessary.
And the risk is on that building owner, that he inked it already.
All right. Well, I just wanted to have the conversation, because I'm
I wasn't
not.
arguing.
No, you never argue. No.
We are taking a leap of faith. I'm curious to see how this can operate and how your theory works out. Obviously, we hope it works to the best for all our town citizen stakes. But so yeah, no, I'm comfortable with this as it is.
I'm satisfied.
I would also indicate satisfaction on my part and state that, modern, current principles of urban planning de-emphasize parking as a major issue, and it runs kind of, argues kind of against the tyranny of the internal combustion engine and motor vehicles as a basis for, urban planning decisions.
Jim's probably going to be in the Salon often, so he can report back to us.
He'll be up on the roof.
That's right, at the bar. So going back, unless there are some additional comments on the motion itself or any conditions, I just want to remind everybody the Section 8, the Article 8 special permit criteria. It is supposed to be consistent with our goals and objectives as a community, the plan of conservation and development, the Silas Dean master plan. Peter, could you, without belaboring the issue, summarize those thoughts?
Sure. In a pre-application review memo that, if you recall, that we prepared for this initially when they came in with the concept, we talked about that. So both the plan of conservation and development and the master plan that was prepared for the Silas Dean Highway encouraged exactly this type of development and suggested that the commission should treat those similar type developments with a great deal of flexibility. We encouraged taller buildings closer to the street, parking behind, shared parking arrangements. If you go down the list of the criteria that was in the plan of development as well as the master plan, this particular development checks off all of those boxes in terms of the type of development, or should I say redevelopment, that we want to see in a number of select locations on the Silas Dean Highway. This particular site was specifically identified for that type of treatment. So I think in terms of achieving some of the goals and objectives that we have previously documented in your planning documents, this is right on target with exactly what we want to see happen with this property.
That sounded like a closing statement.
I have
Not so fast.
two minor items. One's the housekeeping item, and that has to do with number 8 in the, I guess, the proposed motion, and it's number 8 in Peter's memorandum of June 6. And my understanding is that the applicant desires us to delete that particular provision due to the fact that it's not consistent with the DOT standards that are likely to be applied in their review. And left turns onto or out of the Silas Dean is not to be encouraged, and I don't think that deletion was contained in Rich's motion.
I didn't intend to delete it. I mean, I think we know what the answer is going to be, but they haven't filed an application. They've only had an informal conversation with someone. So, I still think there would be some value in formally asking the question and having it formally answered so that we never have to discuss it again.
If it saves us future work, I'm all in favor of it.
Well, because I mean,
Just as
in the
investigate.
grand scheme of things, figuring out some way to get people turning left may be a good thing, but if the answer is no, because you're going to be blocking, off the access to 3 pre-existing driveways on the other side of the road, and it's too short and it's too dangerous, then I think just to protect ourselves, it's probably good to have that answered officially.
Right, and in rereading it, it just says the applicant shall investigate. It doesn't make it a requirement.
Right. Talking about housekeeping, that reminded me, one of the things that we had talked about last time, and it might have been you, was people hanging stuff off the balconies. Do we want to add that in? Or just kind of take them on faith that they're not going to create an eyesore?
I'm not sure.
Especially the ones directly over the patio.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure we want our zoning officer to, now delve into that realm of enforcement in terms of towels and that kind of thing. I think, as was indicated in the testimony, that the management of the development and the rules under which people lease their units, there was going to be language contained in those documents to tie the people to those kinds of restrictions. I'd rather live with that and then have the town approach the developer and/or their management company and have them enforce it than have the zoning officer, delve into those kinds of judgments in terms of what's okay on the patios and what's not. I was satisfied with that response.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and if they're going to have clotheslines between the units, it'll be on the backside where it won't be visible from the street.
Between the two
That would
sides of
be
the
in
L.
it, though, for ever, even if they sold it.
Yes, I mean, it's part of this permit as far as the testimony, so.
It's a condition that's there permanently.
Right.
And I'm not worried, but
No, Who is it? But you never know.
You know, so you're saying if we put
Yeah,
a
maybe we should
requirement,
put something in to that extent.
but you could probably
to
say,
protect ourselves for the future,
I agree.
because
That's the way I look at it.
it runs with the land.
There were a lot of other things that were testified in the record that are also part of the record, and I mean, if you think that rises to the top of all of your concerns, then I put it in there. I just, you know, I'm not sure where we cut it off, if that's...
No, I mean, you're the people doing the enforcing, and the only reason it jumped to mind was he talked about housekeeping, so it made me think of laundry.
so, right, you understand Peter's saying that basically it's part of the testimony, so it's part of the record as to how it was approved.
But it's not a
and-
condition. I mean, I don't know if because it's in the testimony, we could have put it in a condition. Can a future owner say, well, it's not a condition and I'm not required to, you know, to follow that? I'm not giving a specific, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of a, well, if I'm not concerned with this particular developer, future's a long time.
It's not going to probably break the development if you want to add something, if, you know, that helps to move it along, but I would, I kind of said my piece, but if you feel, you know, that
Well,
much of a
something
concern.
vague. I
Yep.
mean, we don't need to
Yep.
be specific like you do in restrictive covenants, you know, with the clotheslines and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, something vague that, you know, the balconies have to be, you know, maintained in a reasonable condition and not create a, you know, an eyesore, you know, to the community. Something, you know, general that at least we can interpret for enforcement purposes later on. I'm not suggesting a detailed,
I would probably then say, and that detail shall be submitted to the town for the town's review and input, because, you know, if you're making it too weak, there's no point in having it, and so maybe something to the effect that, you know, as testified by Marty Kenny in the proceedings, that the developer shall provide specific
Lease language?
restrictive
Well,
covenants regarding the, you know,
the use of the balcony.
use and appearance of the
Appearance of the balcony.
appearance of the balcony, something like that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Lease covenants, is that what you said? So in other words,
Restrictive
whatever,
covenants.
whatever they put in their leases,
Yeah, and that,
Right.
those conditions would be then transferred onto the tenancy for each of the units, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tony, you seconded it.
I will second that as well.
All right. I was going to say, any more housekeeping issues?
I do have one more housekeeping. And it's just basically to reaffirm something, because I didn't quite hear it in the motion that was made, and that is that there be, explicit granting of the special permit pursuant to Article 8 of the
So I was struggling with that.
regulations.
You think it's necessary? We had a dialogue about it. It's not a condition, it's not a condition on the applicant, so I had it written down, and then I said, that's not for them.
Well, we've been talking primarily about conditions and waivers, and the motion, I would think, should also include the granting of the primary purpose of the applicant's application, which was is a special use permit.
I think if someone just says for the record, and the rest of the commission agrees,
And the commission finds
Finds,
that the
exactly.
application with these stipulations is consistent
Exactly.
with
Special,
the special permit criteria of Article 8 of the zoning regulations, particularly consistency with the Plan of Conservation and Development and the Celestine Master Plan, which encourages this type of development.
Splendid.
indeed.
Read.
Almost word for word.
Oh, you wrote it down?
All righty. Any more housekeeping? All right. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Congratulations. Actually, I suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So,
You're going to start tomorrow?
so by the way,
Still didn't get
So-
the, I
so
was
Dan-
gonna ask you what you're gonna be renting at, but
for the record, Dan, Dan, for the record, you were not participating in the vote.
No, I'm not voting. I understand. I didn't vote.
All right. Good luck. Move on to the next item, 3.2, a public hearing for application 1946-17-Z. This is for Andrei Markiv. Special permit, is this the right one? Yeah. Special permit in accordance with section 5.2H.5, permitted principal uses, trucking or freight operations, with complete visual screening of equipment and materials. They're wishing to park trucks on the premises at 61 Arrow Road.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. So if you could start by introducing yourselves and then give us an overview of what the proposal is.
My name is Vitaly Melnik, Andrew Markiv, and Igor Stefak. We are basically applying for the permission to park in the 61 Arrow Road in Wethersfield, just to park our trucks there, because I guess it was stated that we do trucking and freight operation there. It is not true. We just park there. And we are local businessmen in Wethersfield. We've been living here for quite a few years. I actually graduated from Wethersfield High School. These gentlemen have kids. They graduated from Wethersfield High Schools and schools. My kids go to the school. I have a truck. These gentlemen have few trucks. They deliver United States Post Office mail, and I deliver pharmaceutical to, to the pharmacies, to the hospitals. I deliver medicine, drugs, all legal drugs. So we park there since we live close by. I live in the condo association next door. These gentlemen live across the street, not street, Gulf Road. So we all nearby, and we leave in the morning to do our jobs. So we were told by the court decision that we have to apply for the special permit to park our trucks. I have been parking there more than 10 years, and Andrew and Igor have been parking there a little bit more than 7 years. They came right after me. Before, nobody ever required those permits, and there was no problems, I guess, in the past or so. But I guess for the past 2 years, well, we were told by the owner that I guess town of Wethersfield is requiring such and such information or so. So we do also have leases there. We have offices space. We lease office space that we do occasionally business work, phone work, computer, and at the same time we work from our house. So basically, I don't see a reason why would we require to have a permit if we have a lease, but we were told we have to apply for one. So.
All right, thank you. So, Andre, you have how many trucks? So
I have one.
You have one. And where I'm heading is there's a sketch of the number of vehicles that you have on site. So if you could just kind of go through how many total trucks we're talking about between all three companies?
What do you have, Igor?
I'm on like 8 trucks on my company, and start to leasing like between like 2, 3, sometimes 4 trucks, like because the business sometimes grown up. The post office calling we need like more trucks, and if my truck's going down in the shop, so I must request because I'm responsible for my roads. Like I have a contract with these people.
So forgive me, you're Igor?
Igor.
Igor, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got the most of the trucks?
Yes, I park in a positive this gentleman because I have like more trucks. Like I park in like on the left side. If you go on
He parks right behind the storage facility. Let's put it that way. That side of it.
Okay.
Downhill.
Downhill. And Vitaly?
That's me. I have one. I park closer to the road.
Okay. So you're Andre?
That's Andrew.
Yeah, I'm Andre.
Sorry.
Yeah, I own like 5 trucks. I park like on the right side.
Okay. So total, I guess I'm thinking I'm hearing roughly 15 to 20 trucks.
Close to the 20 trucks,
Well,
yes.
not
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes.
It depends on, again, when they require more or if the truck breaks, they rent a budget truck as probably, says in the notes that there's a few budget
We
trucks,
have
so.
to take care about job.
All right, and we're not loading them, we're just
No.
We
parking
just-
them there in the
Just
evening? and-
parking on.
Right.
Yep, good, Jim.
Class trucks are that, we start on the left.
It's a 26, 24 feet truck, box truck. It's not tractor trailers. It's
Class
a
6, 7,
Under,
8.
under CDL,
eight,
under CDL.
under CDL.
Anderson, yeah.
So it's class 6 truck or class 7?
I'm not familiar with those numbers, never
No,
heard
no,
of
no,
it.
it's a class 8, it's like tractor trailers. A class 6, it's a box trucks like under CDL, 26,000 pounds.
All right, so,
So-
yeah, let me just work from,
Yes,
Same.
okay.
same thing.
Same thing.
So all your under CDL
Yeah.
truck,
No, no CDL.
what did you say, 20, how many foot box?
24, 26 feet,
Okay, all of you are the same?
all the way same.
Correct.
What, all diesels?
Diesel.
Diesels.
Yeah.
So all these trucks are plugged in the wintertime?
No.
Like
No,
lock-
there's no plug.
No
They're
plug.
not plugged in?
Never.
So they're all diesels, what, and do any of them have engine brakes on them?
They do, but we don't use them there.
No Jake brakes, no exhaust
No,
brakes?
no,
They're
we don't
not
have
on
it.
the
Did you
trucks?
This truck's not have a jake brakes.
Engine brake?
Well, engine brake, yeah, but that's only when you turn it on.
It's an exhaust brake?
Well, yeah, like when you drive on the highway, you hear the truck, trrrr. It has that, but when you only turn it on, but there's no need for that because it's not a steep hill over there.
Not my truck's not have it.
My truck not have it too.
Okay.
Well, okay.
I noticed that there was, this weekend I drove by, there was a large tractor trailer parked in there.
The red one?
Yeah, the red one.
Red one, okay. Well, the story I heard from the owner, which is he actually is he rents one of the units over there, I believe unit 8 or 9, and they work on sports cars, like Formula 1 or so, and he's a tenant also there, and he parks there sometimes. He's not there all the time, except he's been there, I guess, for the past week. I guess they're waiting for the race or something, but they work on the sport cars, and they transport them with their truck.
But he's not making an application.
That's not.
No, he's not here, but from what I understand, the owner told me that he did apply with the town and the town approved it. And that he is allowed to park there and to do his business, just like the rest of other members that lease there. Because there's a garage that they work on Jeeps and cars. They fix them. There's a watercraft space where they fix jet skis and so. Another guy that does some metal work for the gardening, LED lights installation for trucks and cars. They also use sometimes commercial vehicles to transport so certain things or so, but
We just only have a parking.
George?
Yeah, I'd like to know why the owner isn't here for this application.
You'd have to ask the owner that.
Or
I
his
can't-
representative.
we were told that we the only ones supposed to be here because I guess that we applying for the permit, and if he's needed to be here, then I guess.
When I went up there today to look at it, late today, just before coming here, and I've been up there many times over the years, I've been on there a long time. We approved an application for that owner, and it only included a light use, for somebody in one of those buildings, or if each of you own one of those, or three of you are in one of them, you might each have one or two vehicles. But I don't think we meant to have 30, whatever, a tractor trailer in there, the whole parking lot is filled. The maintenance there is terrible, and I don't think I don't think he has ever followed through with the previous approval by this commission. And I think, when was it, Peter? Maybe 10 years ago, 15?
So, George, you've given us a segue. So, George, you've given us a segue into,
Whatever. He's never followed through. The parking lot
George.
is full of holes.
George,
What?
so let's let Peter go through the scenario.
Yeah, sure.
Right? What is approved on site, right? And then we'll deal with these three specific tenants that are asking for something here. Okay.
So George, you had made a statement about the property owner having not followed through with previous approvals. If you look at the memorandum from Justin LaFountain dated June 2nd, on the second page, there's a heading, Previous Approvals. There was a site plan approved in 2005 and another one in 2007 that showed large paved parking lots with lighting, striping, drainage, and as you said, those plans have never been completed. So there are approved paved parking lot plans on file, which have not been completed. So you are correct on that point.
So I'm going to ask the commission to think about the requested use and think about the conditions that are approved, albeit maybe not done yet, right? If they were done, you know, would we be okay with this kind of a use of the facility? And you know, we could restate those previous conditions if we think that's adequate and go beyond those previously stated conditions if we think that's required of the new uses, but think of it in those terms, all right?
Well, to begin with, I'm looking at the current zoning regulations, and this is a special permit application. The conditions, which I'm reading in the zoning regulations, say that the entire parking lot has to be paved, and it has to be totally screened. Without complying with those conditions, I don't know how this commission can grant a special permit, because there's no waivers here, and they have to comply. I know the business is there, I know that you're tenants, and you're taking it because you're dealing with the landlord, but it's the landlord who has a problem here, and you're a tenant of his. I'm sorry.
That's right.
But we're dealing with the property, and the property, in order for that type of use, which is potentially contemplated, subject to a special permit, but has to meet the zoning regulations, and then we look at some other objectives, but assuming that you meet that initial baseline of meeting the zoning regulations.
So,
And you don't.
So that's not completely true in the way you apply it, correct? I mean, any applicant can come here and they do not comply on the day they're requesting it. So you could say this is an acceptable use under a special permit and put the conditions that the site needs to be paved, and that's their problem with their landlord. And so
I believe that's the case, that it may be proper, but it's not proper without being totally paved and totally screened from view, because that is what is contained within the zoning regs.
which is a subsequent issue about, what's the right term, use and occupancy of the site for the purpose, right? But this commission, if we focus on what is the requested use and what is it that they would need to do to comply and make that acceptable, we'd need to put the conditions on that approval.
I agree.
Okay.
That's my position.
All right. So it doesn't have to be paved today in order to give approval if we wanted to take that path.
I don't want to lead these guys astray. It may not allow 10 trucks for one of these guys, or, you know, only 1 or 2 or something. That was the original concept here with this location.
Not to further compound things, but the parking lot plans that were approved were designed for passenger vehicles. They weren't designed for box trucks or other types of trucks.
Heavy equipment.
So not only is it not paved, not screened, the plan that was approved did not contemplate this type of operation. So my point would be that in addition to paving, screening, there would be at least a third caveat that a plan that is designed and ultimately constructed to support what these particular applicants are asking for would have to be submitted, reviewed, and approved by town staff. So that's a third thing that I would want to make you aware of, that they couldn't just go out and build the parking lot plan that we approved. It would have to be some iteration of that satisfies the particular layout that they need. So that's just also keep that in the back of your mind.
Rich?
To speak to that, what year, I'm sorry, it was several years ago that was approved?
2005 and again in 2007.
So standards, I can't answer the question, but just, I've seen other projects with heavy truck, everything's where, then they get into the whole oil separator in these parking lots, a whole different standard nowadays. And I don't know if what we approved would fly right now for this application, because you said it was a car application.
No, they'd have to submit a revised plan. Yep.
Rich, you had a question?
Yeah, I guess my question would be, you know, we're talking about a number of things, but one of them is the use. And I just wanted to get a better handle on things like, you know, what times of day you're leaving, what times of day you're coming back, whether the people, you know, because I mean, as industrious as you are, you can't drive 10 trucks all at once. You know, do the people that are driving the trucks for you, do they park there during the day? Do they park the truck somewhere else? So how basically does it operate?
Especially my contract, like I have like 2 trucks like leaving like 1:45, 1:55 like in the morning. Another one like I have appointment like 3 o'clock, and rest trucks like coming like out like before 5 o'clock in the morning. So come back, somebody coming like 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. So usually, you know, it's like my trucks, like we're parking all day over there. Like usually all day we stay parking over there. I'm not operated like for the daytime.
Okay, but the people that are driving the trucks, do they park their cars there while they're doing it?
Yeah, just
He switch the parking lot. If you see like they have it like pull out the truck, pull it back like his car in the same place.
Okay.
We not make mess like the whole thing in the parking lot.
I leave around 4:30, 5 o'clock, come back sometimes 8, 9, sometimes I come back in the late afternoon. It depends how far I have to go. But just if I may respond to Dan Silva question, I can't speak for the owner. You mentioned screening, I guess trees and all that. What do you guys require towards screening? There's plenty of trees around it, from the road and from the side. From you know, I don't know if you've been there, you've seen it. But what do you guys would require?
I think the original approval said what it should be. And it's really up along the bank, and it can't be deciduous trees. It probably ought to be more, you know, the conifer with the evergreens in the winter that still, you know, don't show the parking lot.
Okay,
You know,
well,
I don't know if you're gonna have to pave it or not, but I would think you would have to
that's
do a
up to
lot
him,
more
I
than what's
guess.
there, not just those 2 piles out back that haven't been spread. That would
Well,
be-
that's he just got it because I guess you noticed it today, I guess, or yesterday. I guess he got some harder rock and all that just to cover up some holes and all that. But from my knowledge, and as it says on one of the papers, I assume everybody has it, that that building and the property been there since '65 or so, and it always been as a commercial use building. Even in the past, they used heavy equipment, trucks, and they did some mail also over there, and there was trucks always parked there before, from my knowledge and from what the owner said. But returning to the question, the answer you're saying that it was required for the smaller cars and trucks to be parked there, we were never mentioned that and all that. But again, once we became tenants and all that, we asked him, can we park there? He said yes, but then with the court decision, they said we had to be here to apply for a special
See,
permit.
that may be the fault of the owner, not telling you what the limits might be and what the approvals were and what should have been done, and he didn't do it. And he's kind of asking you guys to come in here and ask for something that may not be able to be done because you don't have the first stuff done, as I've indicated over here
Well,
already.
it's not he's asking, it's the court that asks, because we actually went to the court, and I guess court says that, yeah, that be here to apply for a special
What
permit.
wasn't done, and it was approved, what did you say, 15, 14 years ago? And he never went ahead and did the things necessary to screen that back area and make it look decent. The whole
I
area
can't
is
comment, but
shoddy.
from what I heard, I guess, from the way it was years ago, from 60s or so, it was the same thing, and I guess from my knowledge, he says that it's not required to be so, because it's not, that's what I understand, but
Well, he was not telling you the truth.
Well, I mean,
I don't know, so
like we're we're here talking to them,
Yeah.
but it's the owner who is not being compliant, because it's up to the, is it up, like, I'm just clarifying, I'm making sure, is it up to the owner to tell them what they're allowed to do,
Yes. Yes.
right? So
Yeah,
then,
Lisa.
all right, so I don't know, I don't see why we're yelling at them.
Right.
No, no.
No.
Again,
It's bad for you.
I feel bad, like, this
Situation
is awkward.
What it is.
So I'm just trying to
So-
figure out,
So,
we're talking to them, and
Well, I mean,
what are we
it's-
gonna get out of
I
this?
guess I mean, the reason I asked the question I did is so that I could get a handle on what it is, you know, we understand the paving, we understand the screening, I just wanted to understand the operation so that, you know, assuming we were comfortable with the operation, that, you know, the ball would have to be put back into the landlord's court to take care of the site work, you know, that would be necessary to, you know,
to be fully comply, right.
Um,
And so we didn't get to the third one. Andre, right? You didn't describe your operations.
Yeah, I'm leaving my truck working like they started from between 3 o'clock, 3:30 they leaving and came back
AM or
before 8 a.m. before afternoon. Depends how traffic.
Thank you. For the record, there are two pieces of correspondence from Mr. Tartaglia. The first one dated May 17th, where, to summarize, he is supporting his applicants and suggesting it is appropriate use for the site. That's effectively what he's saying. And then he provided an email correspondence. It appears that he's responding to a memorandum from Justin more recently on June 2nd, and I'll just go through it because he asked that his email be read into the record. That all commercial trucks parking on the property are attendant to written leases of the tenants before us. We are not aware that any building or zoning regs that relate to puddles, so I'm guessing that Justin made some reference to the condition of the parking lot. The company has never been cited for violation of ZR 6.2G, which regulations post dates the certificate of occupancy. Since I haven't read Justin's, I don't know exactly what that means, but I just want to make sure it gets in the record. The property's never been cited for any violation related to dust. He's also not aware of any written standards and specs relating to dust. We're not aware of the property ever having been cited for any violations to the terms of parking allotment, so too many vehicles. And this is he again, we are not aware of the term parking allotment within the certificates of occupancy. All right, so that's Mr. Tartaglia's response to Justin's recent comments. And of course, there are descriptions of each of the three tenants' proposed usage in the record as well. Oh, and Mr. Melnick also provided a list of folks who appear to have been in support of, let's see, 14 names, most of which, right, Schoolhouse Crossing, that's, and Sawmill Crossing, that's all part of the adjacent condo complex, right? Those are all the addresses. So 14 names over there. Do we have any more questions of the tenant? Because I'd like to get to the public's thoughts. Would that happen? So if you gentlemen would have a seat for a moment and just let us ask if anybody is here to speak on the application. Anybody? Nobody was here for the last one. You have to be here for this one.
Maybe they're for the next one.
That's right. There is a third, I guess. And once again, just introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. I'm Lynn Burdick. I live at 58 Tinsmouth Crossing.
Thank you.
And I've lived there for almost 30 years. I don't even know where to start with this because I've been here before. We were here a couple years ago and they were trying to, there was a repo company, they were going to repossess vehicles. And it was the same type of problem. This gentleman, the owner, has not followed through on anything that you gentlemen and ladies have asked of him. He goes around the corner and tries to have other people come in and do his dirty work. He cut down all the trees on the left-hand side of the parking lot in the back. And it's his building and his property, so he has that right. But what it did for the crossing, which is the development with 172 units, is it opened up the whole parking lot to all those people going down the hill and on the bottom. He's had trucks in there on and off. Every time he gets his hand slapped, he'll remove them for a while, and then they come back. These box trucks, these budget box trucks have not been there the whole time. I've been there 30 years, and I've never seen those until the last 6 months or so. He had trailer trucks in there, and he had his hand slapped for that. And finally, the trailer trucks were removed, and then the box trucks were put back in. So I speak as a unit owner, and I think it's ridiculous that the man has been able to get away with this. He's supposed to be putting up screening so that when people drive down that road, they don't have to see the dirt and the muck and the buildings in the disarray that it's in. So I would strongly recommend that this not be approved. I don't know if you have any other questions.
How close do you live to this? And the reason I'm asking is, they're talking about when their trucks come and go. It's like,
Yeah.
is it noticeable, or is it
I live
not?
on, there's some other people here that live closer. I live on Tinsmith, which is, if you go by his parking lot and you take a right, I live halfway down the bottom of the hill. So I don't necessarily hear it. I know other people have said that they've heard noises up there. I can't speak to that honestly because I don't hear it myself.
Do you hear the Berlin Turnpike noise more so, or?
It's kind of muffled because you hear it, but it's muffled because there's trees.
Right.
So it blocks the noise from coming forward. So, but there's also a lot of development down on the corner of, Arrow Road and Russell Road. They've cut down all the property, all the trees and so forth on that corner, and they're trying to sell that off. So we get a lot of people that, instead of going all the way down and taking left to get on the Berlin Turnpike, they come down Russell Road and then they go down the hill, down Arrow Road, so they go by that whole area. So.
How has it been since those trees were cut? I noticed they've grown up when I went over there today. Do they screen when you come up toward the top of the hill, which is where you see it?
Not really. They haven't
Not
grown.
really?
I mean, it's only been a couple years.
Yeah.
It's only been a couple years, so they really haven't. I mean, eventually, if they were left to grow, they probably would fill in again.
Yeah.
But-
And they're big trees and they show through where
Yeah.
the base
Yes.
of the trees are.
Yeah. Thank you for going up and looking at it, because at least I feel like somebody's looked at it, and so you have a good visual of what it looks like to the community. I mean, there's 172 people in there, and a lot of us have been there for 30 years. And I understand the gentleman has property and he wants to make a profit from it, but he doesn't follow the rules. And the fact that he can get away with it is really frustrating to all of us. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Mary Rom, and I live at 10 Tanner Crossing, and I've lived at the crossings for a little over 17 years. And I have to agree with everything Lynn said. It's like, we're not anti-business, and we don't want to see this man not make a profit. But in the entire time I've been there, I think we've been here to planning and zoning meetings several times, a handful of times. And the things that do get approved with contingencies, and they're usually the screening and the paving of the lot, and that never, ever happens. And I couldn't agree with Lynn more. It's like you tell him what he has to do to make the lot acceptable for whatever application is coming in, and then he doesn't do it, and then they park there anyway. You know, we looked at tractor trailers for years. I mean, you can see them from the Google Earth satellite photos. They were there for so long, no matter when they took those photos, they were there. Now it's the box trucks, you know, and when he got his hand slapped for the tractor trailers, and they removed them, he put a big sign up on the gate that said, parking by permit only, and that violators would be towed. Well, I don't see any permits on anything. It's private property, so I didn't like walk right up to any vehicles or not, but there's nobody in there with a permit on their vehicle. Suddenly the lot is full of box trucks. The turnover was like weeks, you know, just a few weeks. So he's working the system. I feel really bad for these gentlemen because he sent them, once again, like Lynn said, to do his dirty work. You know, he can't get an application through here. So he's taken these people to the cleaners, and I don't know if he's expecting you to pave the lot. And the screening, there's no screening. Thank you for driving by. Seriously, it's been like that since I moved in. There's a handful of anemic little hemlock bushes that the deer go to town on, and a couple of trees that nobody takes care of, and they're deciduous. So there's essentially no blocking at all, a ratty-ass fence. It's, you know, it looks terrible, and I'm not averse to having a business in there or seeing some parking in there of trucks, but there really does need to be screening, and there is none, and there hasn't been in the 17 years that I've lived there. So, you know, if you want to approve something, maybe he could step up and pave the lot and put some screening up first before you approve something. And I feel really bad that he put you in this position, I truly do, but it's like, I hope you will vote to not approve this, and it has nothing to do with you, it has everything to do with the landowner. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Nella DeBose, and I live at 9 Tinsmith Crossing, which is at the top of the hill, and that lot is in my balcony overlooks that lot. Thank you for bringing up the screening and the noise and all that, because we do hear the trucks when they leave in the morning. I don't know if it's their trucks, because there's a lot of trucks there. Screening this time of year, it isn't too bad because there's leaves on the trees, but once those leaves fall, we just look at a bunch of trucks. So that definitely needs to be improved. And again, I feel very bad for these guys. I didn't realize they've been parking there for 10 years. Do you own the budget trucks, though, or?
Sometimes I use it, like a truck broke down, my truck broke down, it was in the garage, I have to use a budget truck.
Okay, I mean, there's a lot of budget trucks there now.
Of course.
They're,
They have it like I have it, like using like 4 or 5 trucks every day.
oh, wow.
I'm
Yeah.
not, I have like the contract like for the approved like a couple of years, like, and you used to have to buy like all these trucks. So for me, better like using like the rental truck.
Okay, but you're not adding trucks then?
I'm an old truck too.
I mean, you're adding more trucks than what's there now?
No, not that. That before Christmas time, possible.
Okay. And right now, as you enter the lot, on the left side where there used to be trees that were taken down, do you plan to move any trucks there?
No, we.
Because then I could literally spit onto your trucks.
Just like close to the building, they move us like
Closer to the building.
This area where is it, he cut the tree, it's like you can go to driving with there, it's like door around, you can go with it.
Okay. Again, I didn't realize that they had been parking there, so I do feel bad for them, but it is a nuisance, it is noisy, and it is very unsightly.
How noisy? When?
Early in the morning, you hear the car, and again, I don't know if it's their trucks, but you hear trucks starting up.
Trucks on the lot there.
I'm sorry?
Trucks at that lot.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, my bedroom window is on that side. So yeah, you hear them starting and then, you know, going out over the rocks and the stones and whatever. And again, I don't know if it's them, there's...
How early in the morning?
It wakes me up, like 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff, various times of night. And again, there were other trucks. It might be the big tractor trailer. I don't look out the window to see which one it is, but you do definitely hear them. I wish my neighbor Carol were here, because that's her biggest complaint. She's at 7 Tinsmith, and her biggest complaint is the noise that she hears them all the time.
No, if I might, actually, your neighbor, she's
She
the
did
one-
not,
she-
say that's not, no, is it Carol Murphy?
Number 7, she signed, I want.
What's her name?
She said she's a sister or something.
Yeah, she's the
And she lives
sister.
in
She's
Salon.
not Carol Murphy. Carol Murphy is the owner. Yeah, Carol, her sister is Susan, who's staying with Carol temporarily. I know that.
So I did want to talk to you also to explain the situation, because I understand a lot of people who live there, which I do live there also. live in
Oh, I know,
Carports,
yeah.
And they're not familiar with what's going on. I want to actually to explain the situation, but.
Yeah. Yeah, Susan's, she's a sweetheart. She's a little dingy. I mean, oh, yeah, I'm fine. And then she told Carol, and Carol was livid about it.
I spoke with someone, but I remember.
You spoke with Susan, I know.
So, yes.
Yeah, I know. But it's not the owner. It's her sister who's there temporarily.
Her sister
That's
who used to
all.
live there.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
May I don't know, may I discuss this around?
Yep.
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 My name is Jennifer Glick, and I live at 32 Potter Crossing, and I've lived there for, I think, 16 years now, longer than I thought. But I feel badly for my neighbors, too. I was not aware that they had been parking there for 10 years, but I think the main issue is that the stipulations made to this owner, Mr. Tartaglia, have not been enforced at all. He's getting away with it. So even if you granted permits for the parking and left it to the to my neighbors to handle this problem, nothing's going to change. And I have to say, the place is a mud pit. It is an eyesore. There is no screening. The gate that supposedly blocks the entrance exit swings out onto Russell Road. There have been times when I've been driving down Russell Road and the gate is swung out into the middle of the road, and it's a narrow road.
Is it ever locked?
I don't think so. I have.
Otherwise, it's just a decoration.
The last time he got his hand slapped in the tractor trailers, then he put the sign up and locked the gate, and then within a week or two, the lock went away.
So
I've never seen
The
one.
gate is so little used, it's just like a decoration.
Right.
that
Yeah.
Sits open.
And I feel for my neighbor here who lives, I live right down the hill from this particular lot. You live a little bit closer. I do hear the trucks periodically. I can't say that I'm awakened every morning, but I do hear the trucks. It's not a pleasant environment to pass and call your neighborhood at all. And if this gentleman can get away with not following through with the stipulations, I'm really discouraged with the town of Wethersfield as a taxpayer and as a citizen. It's not fair. So, thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Yep.
Good evening, Lorraine Zera, Z-E-R-A, at 19 Potter Crossing, and I'm an original owner for about 30 years now. When I moved into the community 30 years ago, I've really not seen box trucks and trucks, the volume of them in that area until very recently, within the last number of years. And my concern, in addition to all those that have been mentioned, is going forward, let's say that the parking lot is paved and the screening is there. My question is, how many trucks do you allow in that area? I mean, he has renters. I don't know how many are in that building. And I would say that, you know, if you're leasing or renting, you're allowed X number of trucks. I just don't know how many that is, because right now, I mean, there's so many of them right now that, you know, if you add another 30 or 20, as they've said, I mean, does that add up to like 50, 60 trucks in that area, which is a fairly small area? I don't know. So my concern going forward with all this, should he even comply, is we're talking about passenger vehicles and now we're into the box trucks and trucks. How much would the town of Wethersfield allow that small area to even keep? And that's just a concern going forward that I would have. You've got the oil spillage from the trucks potentially, things like that, and I think that would be a concern of mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing nobody else from the public, gentlemen, or just one of you, if you want to just come up and answer some additional questions,
Yeah,
George?
can we have Justin come up here for a minute? Can he testify, or won't you allow him?
Yeah.
Do we have to pay him?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, just,
Yeah, just.
Justin, did we ever collect on this November 18th, 2015 letter that you sent? I mean, $100,
Okay, yeah, so
did we collect 100 or even, or?
just to, well, first of all, Justin LaFountain, Zoning Enforcement Officer, Town of Wethersfield. So that letter back from 2015 is what started the whole enforcement process. So what happened was, it was initially appealed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, but that appeal was withdrawn. So we took the case to court, and over the course of just a little over a year, we had the whole trial and everything like that. In probably April, whenever we got the decision back, we were granted $50 per day since that date to the date of the judgment. Came to about $22,000 in fines, in addition to our legal costs that we had accrued throughout the...
Has the town been able to collect it, though?
We put a lien on the property for it. Now we're going through the process of, essentially what's happening is now the owner of the property has appealed it to the Connecticut Appellate Court. So now so now we have to go through that.
You can win?
I can't speak for him, but it was a very fortuitous judgment from the Superior Court on behalf of the town. And that, of course, is what prompted the application here today, because the judgment came across that said needed to comply with the zoning regulations, which, of course, is why they're here before you.
Thank you very much for the history on it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Are the things that they're applying for a special permit for the things that you cited him for in the first place, or are they
Correct.
different trucks? And
Correct.
so-
Well, can you clarify the question a bit?
No.
Are they the same trucks? Are
Well,
you
no, I
asking?
mean,
Or-
because we've heard about tractor trailers and
Mhm.
things like that,
Mhm.
and,
Okay, so yeah, maybe I can elaborate on that a bit. The tractor trailers that have been coming up, they were there at the start of this enforcement order, and they were removed. He said he did that in a good faith effort to comply with the town regulations. So that happened, but of course, the rest of the remainder of the trucks were still there. So that's why we went through with the court case.
Okay.
George, also, there are, as was mentioned, some other trucks, not a significant number of them, that belong to some of the tenants, other tenants in the building. There's a leaf guard, there was the tractor trailer. Yeah, there is a couple of other tenants that were approved, and they have trucks as well as passenger vehicles that are associated, obviously, with their tenancy. So there was a couple of comments about some other trucks, but the lion's share, 20 to 24 at any particular time, are related to the three applicants that are here tonight.
So thanks for that clarification. 20 to 24 current trucks?
I think we've counted 24 on occasion when we've gone up there, roughly, but as was testified by the applicants, they are talking about 19 or 20 trucks in total between the three trucking businesses that are part of this application tonight.
All right. So while you're doing the talking, could you remind the commission what the parameters were of the prior approvals, what the conditions were? Because again, I have it in my mind that we should be considering this strictly from the viewpoint of the application, which is again, in my mind, is this industrially zoned property the right place and an appropriate place for storing trucks? If it's appropriately screened, paved, et cetera, is it an appropriate use for the zoning here? And whatever restrictions we put on him, the owner will have to do, or he will be subject to continuing enforcement actions, right? It's, so I guess I would strongly recommend that we consider the application on its merits and put the criteria to it. There are pre-existing ones, maybe we should change them, but start with describing what it is that we approved before.
So you two different things. There's a couple of approvals, and then you talked about the zoning. So this property is located in the BP, which is the Business Park Zone. It is the only zone in town that allows trucking or freight operations with complete visual screening of equipment and materials by special permit. No other zone in town could anyone even apply. So just to set the parameters, it is the only zone in town, and there are not a lot of business park zones in town. The second part of your question pertained to the previous approvals. The first approval, which was application 1497-05, which was for the existing tenancy. There was a parking lot plan which had a row of arborvitaes along the along the road per se. That was the extent of the landscaping required at that particular time. Then again in 2007, which is application 1600-07. There was a very detailed and elaborate site plan that was approved. It had a very clearly defined parking lot. It had islands. It had landscaping in the islands. It had pole lighting, and it had an elaborate landscaping plan that had trees in the landscaped islands, and it also had a mix of evergreens and deciduous trees, once again along the road to screen the parking lot from view. So,
But no paving.
both had paving.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, both clearly, there was two different paved parking lot plans approved for this property, and those did not contemplate trucking like this. These were passenger, these were for the tenants of the building.
Right.
So,
This is a light use truck idea conceptually, based upon my history.
okay,
I mean,
they're not tractor
so,
trailers, right?
one
Yeah,
of the
they're box trucks, right?
For the owner and, kind of thing. The leaseholder, rather, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, Peter. So the all right, so the parameters are a paved parking lot with a well-screened and actually a well-defined parking lot. So we have someplace to start in terms of, criteria if we were to move ahead with this. Go ahead, Jim.
I was just asking Peter the history on it to refresh my memory. That building, the original used tool and die company,
Aero Tool.
that's all that was there.
That's my understanding. I mean, so the testimony that there were trucks like this parked on this lot since 1965 or 68 or whatever. I think in court that was proven not to be accurate, and this activity is obviously different than that, and they were required to come in. I don't know if some of the neighbors who've lived there for 30 years can also maybe testify to, what's been happening over there back in obviously, it's longer than 30 years ago, but nevertheless, my understanding of the history of this is this kind of activity in this part of the property never occurred to the extent that this is happening now, so.
Thanks for the refresher.
Yep.
Tom?
I just have a quick question of Justin, relating to the current litigation and the decision. Are these gentlemen defendants in that action?
No,
They're not?
No.
The owner is the defendant?
Correct.
The judgment is against the owner?
that's correct, yes.
Did you have a question? All right. Well, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Your turn. All right. questions for the applicant? Additional
I have a
questions?
quick question. Do you have office space in the facility, or are you just renting the parking lot?
Office space,
All three businesses have office space in there?
yes.
Awful quiet. Okay.
Well, I guess my dilemma is that, you know, if we can convince ourselves that this is an appropriate use at this site, if the parking lot were done properly, and if there were appropriate screening both for visual and, you know, reduction of noise impacts on the neighbors, you know, how can we make sure that, you know, unlike the last 3 times, you know, that the work actually gets done here? I mean, unfortunately, you know, they're the applicants, and, you know, if the work isn't done, you know, they would be the ones who would suffer the consequences, but, you know.
So in answering your question, because it would help me as well, what exactly would be the next steps in the process? Would that be fair, right? So if this commission gave approval, the owner would have to make the improvements before the town will do what? Give them is it a certificate of occupancy? What is it that the town gives these 3 applicants if we were to give them an approval?
Permit to do what they're doing.
Exactly, right?
Can I
And
ask
so they
Peter-
won't, and so that won't happen, right?
Can I ask Peter another question? Tartaglia talk to you guys?
Mr. Tartaglia, I didn't talk to him today, but he was
I don't mean
in
to-
our office.
Jim.
No, he was in our office today. He has, he filed a Freedom of Information Act request against me for the information in the file, which I'm not sure why he needed to do that, but, so I have.
You wouldn't give him information?
No, I didn't say that. He filed it in advance of asking me. So, so we do talk to him on occasion and have talked to him. It's primarily via email, but.
But not personally?
Well, he does stop in the office on
And
occasion.
not even a letter of any sort, or?
Well, he submitted a letter, and I mean, in your packet, you've had several pieces of correspondence from him. We do communicate with him via those means.
Yeah,
So are you asking me if you would like me to reach out to him in regards to some of these? Is that where you're going with this?
I think I would. I think we deserve the right of some communication with him about what he wants to do here and how he's disappointed his tenants.
Shouldn't we have to vote on the merits of this application? I mean, to me, I think this application, you know, there's not enough information here to really make a vote on this application. We don't know about the parking lot, the handle truck traffic, drainage in terms of the oil, leakage, screening. If we were to vote on this application, the way I see it here, I'd be against it because there's just not information here to make a favorable vote.
No oil leakage. You could go on each truck and check it out, because we do maintain them. That's number one, because it has to be on the road. If it's oil leakage, then the truck will stop somewhere in the middle of the road or whatever, and it could be a big problem for us. But we do maintain them. And screenage, as you see some pictures, the trees, but even just for my knowledge, I would like to know what's the good screenage. More trees, bigger fence, how big the fence can you put it? It's on top of the hill. Even if you put a 6-foot fence, you're still gonna see the trucks, the roofs and all that. So from what my knowledge, most of the towns, not just Wethersfield, will not even allow bigger fence from the road higher than 6 feet. Then it's gonna look like a prison. And if you maintain those trees, if you cut them down, then it's gonna be more visual. So it's better if the trees look kind of sloppy in a way, let's put it, but it will close some of the.
I think you're hearing concerns of the commission here. Whether or not you take that is up to you.
Yeah.
The way we see this information here is certainly not, in my opinion, enough to vote on, or if it is, this is the application, I would definitely not be in favor of it.
my initial reaction coming in, before I listened to the testimony, is I didn't understand and have a full flavor of the situation, would be to grant it subject to the conditions to meet all the zoning regulations, okay, including having fully paved, screen subject to the approval of of staff to protect everything. But in effect, that is benefiting an individual, not these individuals, benefiting the owner who has been violating our zoning regulations with impunity for all these years. And I can't see rewarding the owner of the property with anything at this point in time.
I agree.
I mean, that's the problem. I feel bad for these guys, but to do something to potentially reward the owner of the property for ignoring everything that the town has done, and the courts have already decided, and it's on appeal. I'm not sure the merits of the appeal, except to waste time. I shouldn't say that. I don't know the facts, so I can't say that. I think is wrong.
I mean, does anyone see any value in continuing this so that either the applicants or staff can communicate with the owner and say, you know, come in with a legitimate site plan showing how you intend to comply with zoning regulations, you know, for this proposed use, and, you know, if it's radio silence, then we know that, you know, we're wasting our time by asking to have something done that hasn't been done for the last 10 years, but if there is some, you know, good faith movement on the part of someone to, you know, figure out how to do drainage and paving and, you know, plant some actual trees. I don't want an 8-foot-high fence any more than anybody else does, but to at least move in the direction of complying with the regulations or the requirements of the regulations that apply to this potential use. You know, at least we're not wasting their time, you know, by saying your landlord isn't doing you justice. You know, we're sorry you're denied, without at least giving the opportunity for someone to step up and do that.
So you could tell by my comments that I was, you know, assuming others felt as I tend to, which is that this is consistent with the zoning of the area. As long as they follow through with the conditions, I tend to think it's an okay use, right? And I was leaning toward being comfortable with the plans as they had been submitted once before. But I must admit that, to Tony's point, they're not in front of us. We haven't really reviewed them consistent, you know, the plans as they were, consistent with what the use is right now. Maybe the islands aren't in the right place if they're going to be, you know, parking box trucks, if that's the plan today, plus.
They've cut down all the trees since then.
So, you know, saying or continuing this whole discussion, continuing the public hearing, et cetera, reaching out to Tartaglia, the property owner, or simply, you know, just telling the applicants, you need to get your landlord on board to make a proposal as to what is it that you would do, what would the property owner do to make it consistent with your application, so that we can be comfortable moving forward or not, right? But right now, the plan was approved before, probably isn't completely consistent with this, so. I just want to make sure that everybody just doesn't say no to this just because we have a property owner that grates on us, right? Because that's not going to work well for us, bottom line.
From my perspective, the commission has three reasonable options. One option is denial of the application as it stands. Another option is continuing the hearing, seeking to have the owner of the property come in and appear and join the application as a party to it, and you know, make certain commitments to us that we could embody in, you know, a resolution that would approve the application with conditions. And the third thing that we could do is approve the application as made, subject to the three conditions that you know, were outlined by our town planner, coupled with a time limitation to that zoning approval that would limit the length of that approval so that we could assure that, number one, these gentlemen would have time to move their operations elsewhere in the event the owner did not follow through with necessary, improvements, and three, to allow a reasonable time to allow the owner to make those improvements, but us to be assured that they're going to get done.
So I'm going to
I think those are the three reasonable options that we've got.
So the first two I completely agree with. The third one, however, would go against and it's where I started to ask Peter before about the process going forward. I don't think even a whole discussion of timing is even necessary because the approval is contingent upon the conditions being met. And they never get approval until such time. So what happens tomorrow, if we were to approve this tonight, what would happen tomorrow? What would be the town's next step?
It's going to complicate things. I think number three would make it very, very complicated and subject to potential litigation down the line, because it's too vague. So I would not agree, I could not agree to
I don't think
number three.
I don't think the time element applies because it's simply, we would not be ever giving them an approval. Go ahead, you can start doing what you're doing legally, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess, in my simplistic view, continuing it with the opportunity to come back and show that you intend to comply with the requirements of the regulations for what it is that you're asking for, if that fails to happen, then I think the basis for denial is much stronger, which is, it's not a paved parking lot, there is no screening. We don't have to get into minutia about how quickly something was done or not. And, as much as I would like to accommodate, hardworking, honest business people, we have 10 years of conditions and stipulations that haven't been met, and I don't want to have them become burdened by, the failure to comply with any future conditions and stipulations that might come along.
I agree with my fellow commissioner. I mean, we need to judge something at its face value without any bias of whatever's happening and beyond this. I think, again, we're requesting a site plan like any other application, and I would agree that we would, give them potentially another month or whatever it is to extend this, to give them an opportunity.
That's a good question. How long are we going to allow him to get back to us?
I agree with Commissioner Roberts. I agree, just like the last applicant did, a full plan of what the parking plan is, the photometrics plan, the whole bit, so we know what needs to be done. I mean, like the drainage question I have, I don't know the answer to that.
If we just leave it to the owner of the property to come back at a reasonable time, we're never going to see them.
What's a reasonable time? This is extending hearing until next month, right?
I mean, you have usually it's 30 days to keep the hearing
Makes sense.
open. I mean, that gives him 2 meetings or thereabouts to come back or give us at least an indication if he's willing to work on that, and then you can decide at that point in time whether it's worth continuing it further based on his response.
Rich, you want to make a motion to continue the hearing?
I would, but I would only make a motion at this point to continue it to the next meeting, because if there's no expression of interest, then I don't see any point in dragging it out till July, when we only have one meeting sometimes and people might be on
Yep.
The
vacation.
owner is known to procrastinate.
Yeah, that's
Well,
fair.
I'm not gonna attribute any behavior or motivations to the owner. I just kind of want to
Be done with it.
keep this on a short leash so that we don't waste these gentlemen's time.
Mhm.
If
Yep.
the property owner or they are unable to comply, come in with a compliant site plan. So I'd make a motion to continue the hearing to the
Second.
June 20th.
I think
Is that
that's the next, yes, June 20th, next meeting.
George seconded it.
And the purpose of the continuation is to encourage dialogue with the owner and the applicant to, demonstrate in some kind of site plan that complies with the requirements of the regulations, particularly pavement and screening.
All right. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you. Dan, I'm going to ask you to not participate again, right? Dan. So we'll see you next time, gentlemen. And have the property owner call us, or we'll reach out to them.
Thank you.
So the next two items, could I have somebody make a motion to hear them together? Any reason not to? Help me.
Make a motion that we hear the public hearings for application 1947 and 1948 simultaneously, but we have to remember to vote on them separately.
Thank you. Tony, would you second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. So item 3.3 and 3.4, would the applicant join us? So while you're going up, these are public hearings, and the applications are seeking special permits in accordance with section 4.1, point 12, concerning construction material storage on lot number 9 Middletown Avenue, and another one for a special permit in accordance with section 6.1, which is for the storage of fill material on lot number 4 Elm Street, 280 Elm Street.
Oh, yes, I'm Louis Santos with Baltazar Contractors, and we're going to be doing work for the MDC on that Golf Brook Road sewer repair, and we're looking to use the properties for construction purposes, and that's about it.
So could you describe the use of each of the sites specifically?
Yes, the first one is Elm Street. There we're going to be storing materials, earth materials. It's going to be basically 3/4 inch stone, sand, process. We'll be depoting some asphalt over there that we're excavating from the street temporarily, and then basically as we're receiving the other material, that material is going out. And that's about it on that site.
And by the looks of the sketch provided, you'll be keeping it with 110 within the 110 foot. Is that the complete frontage, 110 feet?
Yeah, it's
And,
approximately 110, I believe, by 125.
okay, the plan says 150, but
150,
150 feet back from the property line?
Right,
So
right.
in the front quadrant of the site?
Correct.
In other words, you're gonna go from Elm Street, how far back you gonna use?
125, 150.
So I think it's like 15 feet, so like 165 from the road back.
Oh, okay. So you're not, and you can't go all the way through to Middletown Ave anyway, right? And it's wet,
Yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah.
stream goes there,
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Are you gonna strip the topsoil and pile that off?
Yes,
So there's gonna be a topsoil pile in addition to the materials you just described?
correct. Correct. And we're going to silt fence everything. We're going to per our wetlands, silt fence everything, and anti-track pad out in the front.
So that this is just Elm Street, I'm just asking, so are you gonna store equipment down there also?
No, no, it's going to be more, well, we're going to have like a loader there just to be able to load up trucks and to pile up material as it comes in, and that's it. Just be one loader.
So there's not gonna be any kind of repair or any kind of stuff like that?
No, no.
None of the trucks, just that one or two machines there?
Yeah, that's it. The other side is going to be more for pipe material, concrete structures, where it's closer to the brook, so it's really not the right place to put the earth materials, so.
Are you gonna have a need to do any crushing or material reduction on that Elm Street site?
No, no.
With that asphalt?
No, no. We have another site that we can bring that to afterwards.
What are your hours of operation? How many trucks are coming in? And so last question, how do you plan on restoring the property when you guys are done?
Our hours are 7 to basically the town ordinance. It's going to be 7 to pretty much 5, 5 o'clock. As far as restoring, once we're done, we'll clean up the site and we're going to put back the topsoil.
And how many trucks will be coming in and out
It could be 3, 4 trucks, triaxles.
per day?
Well, triaxles on site, so it could be maybe 15, 16 times going down the road per day.
Each one, right? Each truck 10, 15 times.
Well, yeah, 10, maybe each truck 10 times, you know.
So 30, 40 trips.
Yeah.
And what's the duration?
This job is going to be going on for about 1.5 to 2 years.
Starting?
We're pretty much in the starting phase now. We're just getting all our submittals, approvals right now and getting everything ordered and,
So next 2 summers.
yeah, next 2 summers, yeah. We're planning on working through this winter and then next winter, no.
Thank you.
That's Monday through Friday, no weekends.
No weekends, no, Monday through Friday.
And you're helping run the line up from about the town line right now at Rocky Hill up?
Correct. We're going from the pump station up Middletown Avenue to Mill Street. We take a left there, follow Mill across Silas Dean to Maple, take a left there to Hewitt.
Oh, that's why all the markings on Mill Street.
Right.
All the way over to Maple.
Right. We go to Maple.
How far in Maple?
Take a left on Maple to Hewitt. It ends right there.
Oh, okay.
Going down Hewitt or just stopping right at Maple and Hewitt?
Pretty much the intersection Hewitt and Maple. That's where they're catching all the overflow.
Okay.
And you have to dig up Mill Street last year that was paved?
Yeah, I've heard that already a few times.
Oh, I'm sure you
I
have.
think it's an MDC rule.
Yeah.
They go around and follow
I
the
thought
paving
so
trucks.
myself.
Oh, here's where we're gonna,
Yeah, wait till Mill's already done.
is any of the material that's either gonna be brought in or taken out for other projects, or is it just?
No, just for this project, yeah.
No, I mean, the only reason I ask is that there've been MDC contractors that have used sites in Wethersfield for stuff that has nothing to do with Wethersfield.
No, these sites will be used only for this job.
Okay.
Is this clean material?
Yes, yeah. It's going to be,
Afterwards, how's that working?
well, this job is, there's no contaminated material on this job. So, and if there is, we have another site in Hartford that we're permitted for contaminated materials for storing. So it's going to be clean material coming in. The only thing that's going to be going over there is going to be the asphalt that we dig up. It's going to be temporary stockpile there. When they're bringing me the clean material, they're taking the asphalt out and the fill, so.
And it's all being reused, right?
And it's all being reused, yeah.
The
Well,
wa- waste
the
is-
material that we're taking out is not being reused on the site, we're bringing in clean fill. So as the clean fill is being brought in, the excavated material and the asphalt is being taken out.
And so this is just a temporary storage
That's
facility,
right,
place
right,
for it?
it's a depot, right.
And it's going to be put there, and then there's going to be trucks taking it away
Correct,
permanently, right?
because it's not big enough to put a big pile over there, so.
Well, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
exactly.
we got to move it pretty much every day.
Okay.
So just to get, like for a neighbor or whatever that's here, about, give me a dimension on this pile, height, size, and just give me
I mean, pretty much maybe 30, probably 500-yard piles, maybe 30 by 30 by maybe 15 feet high, something like that.
You guys are responsible for the road for any debris that's,
Yeah, any sweeping or dust control, we take care of that. And I know there's one condition that we're gonna basically monitor the road, make sure there's no damage to the road. Derek, in his memo, he has something to that effect.
Thank you, I was going to mention that, yep.
And then also, as far as the traffic, the travelway to and from site, basically, whatever work we do on Middletown, we'd go down Mill to Silas, go back up to Route 3, come down Route 3 to Elm. We're good with that. We're not going to go through the home residence over there.
All right. So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Yolanda.
Were there any other locations you were looking at to stockpile?
Well, there actually was the fun zone there, the first one. We were actually looking, and we missed the boat on that one.
Okay.
That would have been the perfect spot.
You can put it inside there.
Yeah, I called that number. I actually ended up running down the owner, and he was like, "Oh, you're a little bit too late. We're actually somebody's actually developers trying to get it approved." So I was like, "Okay."
Spot on Arrow Road.
Arrow Road.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about Middletown Avenue.
Okay. Go ahead. Middletown Avenue. So let's talk about Middletown.
Yeah, Middletown Avenue is basically, we're going to be keeping more of the materials that are going to be used on the job site as far as like pipe, concrete structures, manholes, earth support equipment, and parking of, say, vehicles or trucks and machinery is going to be used for that site.
So there's a gate there now. Are you upgrading that gate and/or adding security of any kind down there, fencing or?
Well, right now, there's only that wire
Right.
gate there.
Right.
We weren't planning on putting anything there. We could put something there if it's needed.
No, I'm just asking if you
Yeah.
were, if there were
Along
other.
that same line, Peter, did you have any problems with the Rocky Hill work as far as security? Which is, I think, what he's getting at.
Well, that's another contractor working over there. That's Nickerson.
But have you heard they have-
No, it seems like,
You don't have anybody on site overnight on the equipment?
no.
So there's a memo, you alluded to it, where Derek suggested to us that we might want to consider that we restrict his construction access, moving the material along Elm via Route 3, Maple, and Silas Dean rather than using Middletown. And I think you kind of implied that would be fine with you.
Correct.
Right. And the other one was that the applicant will be required to make repairs to the satisfaction of the town, and including surface repairs and/or milling and paving when they're done. That obviously starts with a pre-condition survey, and
Correct,
you're
yeah.
okay with that as well? All right. Other questions for the applicant?
2 years is your outside on this job?
Hopefully, it's going to be less than 2 years, yeah. I'm hoping 1.5 years to 2 years. I mean, we're hoping for a substantial completion, which is basically with all the excavation, all the pipe work in the ground by the end of 2018. So that's 1.5 years. And then it's just going to be pavement restoration in 2019, which will be our final paving. That's going to happen the spring and summer of 2019.
They give you incentives to do it?
No, unfortunately not. We wish we did have some.
They did too.
What actually is this project?
It's to get rid of the overflows when you have heavy rainstorms, and you see those manhole covers popping up out of the ground and sewage
In front of the
flowing.
fun zone?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
That's to get rid of that.
Okay.
But that's, it's drainage then, rather than sewage, but it's going to the sewage treatment plant.
Mhm.
So it's both.
Correct. Well, it's combined. It's kind of combined sewage, and
Right.
so picking up, yeah, so it's picking it up. Yeah.
Right, it is combined today, so the good question, which are you building? Are you building the new sewer line?
New sewer.
Right, and you're leaving what's
Right,
there
right, and
as a,
there's a regulator structure that's going to be put at the end of the job, which is going to control the overflow. So the
Sort of like they did up in Hartford.
correct, yeah, pretty
They
much.
had a big plant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hours of operation, number of trucks, location?
Yeah, it's 7. Basically, our hours are going to be 7 to 5. One of our subcontractors, the tunneling contractor that's going to be working on site for us, their hours, they're going to be working 5 10-hour days. So they'll be out there 7 to 5. And that's pretty much what our hours are going to be, 7 to 5.
What are you tunneling underneath Silas Dean?
There's 5 tunnels, actually, that's going on that job. Silas Dean is going to be open cut, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's concrete. You gotta go-
Yeah, with concrete, yeah, but there's other areas of the job that are tunneled.
You know, I drive down Milton Avenue every morning, there's a lot of school kids on that road.
Yeah, yeah.
Some concerns in the morning time, it's just,
And there's that bus turnaround,
yeah.
he goes into the overhead door, Rock Hill's bus comes down, turns around. And then the town's gonna be fixing Middletown Avenue where that Jersey barrier is.
Yeah, that's gonna get fixed too, yeah. We'll probably end up taking care of that too. Yeah.
It's like those spare part barriers.
Throw it in.
Yeah.
Let's not call it Jersey barrier.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
ripped up construction pieces.
That's a
Yolanda?
long way around down Elm Street.
Yolanda?
Thank you. So just a question on the Elm Street site. So that site is located in the floodplain?
Yes.
And so what is the, I don't know, I might have missed this in the discussion. So what is the contingency plan if there'd be like really a lot of rain, and what do you do with that
Well,
equipment?
if
material?
there was gonna be a 100-year storm that was coming, the wetlands asked us to make the attempts to remove the piles.
Mhm.
So, and we agreed on that, so.
So they would just tell you that you need to move them?
Yeah.
Or do you follow the weather forecast, or?
Correct.
Like, what's your typical way of doing it?
Well, I mean,
Follow
if
the
you
weather
mean,
forecast and
follow
say,
the weather
okay.
forecast and see what's going on, and,
All right, and at this point, you wouldn't know where you'd put the material?
well, we have another site in Hartford, like I
Okay.
said, that
So
we
that's
could
your
bring
backup
it.
plan.
That's our backup plan,
Okay.
right, yeah.
And just to make yourself feel a little more comfortable, probably you can put it in terms of the math. You're going to have one 500-yard pile there at the site? One-
No, there's probably gonna be about maybe 4 or 5 500-yard
Okay, and
cubic yard piles on the site.
and how many, what's the yardage in a truck? You're moving 30 trucks there a day or more. What's in a truck?
Well, the truck's about 17 yards.
So you're moving 300 every day, right? Maybe 400 every
Yeah,
day?
yeah, yeah.
So if you're only keeping, it's almost a pile a day. So if weather was coming in, it would take what, 4 days, 5 days, a week to move it out?
Well, we'd put more trucks at that point, I mean,
enough.
yeah,
True enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Faster, yeah, good answer. All right, there are 2 sites, I don't know if we should probably deal with them separately. Are there any additional questions for the applicant? It's actually a public hearing,
So
too.
there's gonna be 4 or 5 piles that are 30 by 30, about 15 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And the old, did I miss this? That the area you're gonna use is 150 by 110?
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna have this pile for the topsoil that you took off that side.
Right, and if I need to relocate that topsoil, I'll relocate that topsoil and I'll bring it back, so. I'll make it work with what I got.
That's the easy one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Give him his address.
There's a lot of farmland around there, they'll take the topsoil.
Final questions? All right, so there are 2 public hearings. I suppose I should ask. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on these applications? Please join us. If you'll just have a seat, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm Mike Mancini. I'm the co-executor for my mother's estate. We've lived at 520 Middletown Avenue since 1955. We were prevented from moving in when we bought the house because of the historic floods. But all of my brothers and sisters have grown up in Wethersfield. We all graduated from Wethersfield High. And we certainly want to be good neighbors with the contractor. We certainly are supportive of the project. It's definitely something that's needed in that area. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we have some protections against our house from any damage that may occur from the operations. There's a couple of things. I did get a letter, a copy of the permit from the Inland Wetlands Commission, where there was some concern about the equipment being stored on site, any kind of oil leakage, diesel fuel refueling of that. Certainly, I'm no stranger to construction. Those are not things that are done intentionally, but are more accidents, and I'm sure Baltazar has their own quality control in place to minimize that. But again, we want to make sure that is part of your approval if you do deem to approve this application. The other thing is that the house was built in the late 1800s. It's a very fragile house. Right now it has a fieldstone, fieldstone foundation. So I'm a little bit concerned about any of the vibrations that could occur from either the equipment, the heavy equipment going in to supply the staging area, and the equipment that would also retrieve the equipment to bring it on site for installation. I have talked to the MDC about putting in a monitoring point just to monitor the vibrations that could be coming from there. But I also have a concern when on staging areas, especially for a project that has a 2-year duration, the grass that's there now certainly will be killed, so dust control is going to be a major concern. So we would like to see some type of part of, again, your approval, if you do, that be implemented, and I'm sure the contractor has no problems with that. But again, I just want to go on record for that. We are in the process of going through the estate, and we plan on putting that house up for sale shortly. So, not that I'm against, I understand construction, I know how it's supposed to go, but we would like to see if we could get some sort of a screening along the property line, just to kind of not scare off any potential buyers. And my opinion to you would be is if we do sell it and there isn't any screening, the town staff is certainly going to be getting many phone calls from the prospective buyer that they would like to have that screening. So it's kind of like a little proactive approach to it to just help that area. So that pretty much is what I would like to say. Again, I am positive for the project. I think it's well deserved. It's timely. It needs to be done. But at the same time, we just want to make sure that we can enjoy the home, and we can not have any damage that would be caused by this project. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
I'm David Anderson of Anderson Farms, Broad Street in Wethersfield. We own approximately some 35 acres on Elm Street that we have already planted for crops, and I have one house down there, and we're very concerned with this dumping of fill on property next to us. We have about 1,000 feet. We're going to get all the water runoff into our fields, and we don't appreciate that. Plus, Elm Street is not a wide street. It's a very narrow street. It's a non-consisting road. Really, it's never been widened since back in the horse and buggy days. And we have no sidewalks down there. And now there is some 2 or 3 families with small children. And with the farm vehicles and stuff on Elm Street, I don't think that dump trucks should be running up and down there and dumping on land that's in the floodplains either. This is floodplains that was put in 1955 after the 55 flood. We were not to move and dump soil on our farm or any other property down there. We could dig a hole, but we had to spread material out from that hole. And when the Jehovah's Hall built theirs, they graded their property so that the church is at a 32 feet level, so they will avoid high water and stuff. We in 55 had 31.5 feet, and in 1984 we had 31.6 inches. There's about 6 houses at that time had no water on their first floors. All the people on Elm Street, other than the Jehovah's Hall, had water in their cellars. There's 2 houses that had about 2 inches of water in one L, and there's 2 homes that had about 8 inches above the molding on the first floor, and the other house that stands the lowest has just about even with the windowsills on the first floor. So I think if you put fill in there, it's not going to create it's going to create a more of a detriment to the property owners. You understand what I'm saying? The water level is, you're taking up square footage, so now the water level is going to be higher, so we're just, what should I say? Don't think that that's what the whole idea was when they put the encroachment, water encroachment lines. They wanted the open space not to be moved. They wanted people to leave the land. They didn't want you to build on it. They didn't want you to put foundations in. They didn't want a lot of things that people had to do and haven't done in that area. But my biggest concern is the traffic on Elm Street being on such a narrow street. And I don't think you're allowed correctly to take a left from the Glastonbury Bridge onto Elm Street. So they would have to go up to the old part of Middletown Avenue and come in from Broad Street Green and go down that way. I believe it's a no-turn intersection. They may not enforce it.
I don't think that was part of the route, right? The taking a left off of that.
But deliveries, if he's taking deliveries or guys coming off the highway, I think that's what he's referring to.
The Glastonbury Route 3
He has to go-
is
they have to go
supposed
spin
to
around.
be, it's not supposed to turn left or right.
Yeah.
So all these dump trucks would have to go through the narrow streets on Middletown Avenue to get into Broad Street to come down from the green.
Yeah, would they
But-
take,
But not
And
normally.
there's no sidewalks
so
in
would
that
they, would
area
they end
either.
up taking like Old Wethersfield and going through there?
Spring Street.
Thank you for your listening to me.
Mr. Anderson, before you leave, Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Anderson?
Huh?
I have a quick question for you. And you have a couple of years down in the meadows there, the 55 flood you mentioned.
Well, I'm the third generation.
Yeah.
We go
And,
back to 1852 or 1856.
So let me ask you a question.
I have one more generation behind me that's right pushing me.
If you get something like the 55 flood down there,
Yes?
what do you, what are these 500-yard stockpiles of material, what are they gonna look like after the waters recede? What do you think? I mean, your land abuts it. You tell me.
I'm not sure how much water flow for current there would be in that area, but there would be some. But I know in 55, we ended up, that was before I-91 was in, we ended up with about 2.5 inches of silt on most all the farm in Elm Street. And in 84, we did not end up with that silt because of the I-91 barrier and the Glastonbury Bridge. So we didn't get any wash, but got plenty of water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
J2, yes, please. Yep. Come join us.
Hi, I'm Cindy Hughes from Old Wethersfield. I just had a couple questions. I wanted to know who owns the property on Middletown Avenue? And who owns the property on Elm Street? And what are the permitted uses for both? So are they permitted to put these kinds of materials on these properties? And has there been anything prior determined about these properties to preclude that from happening? It's my only question.
Thank you. Peter, do you know the answers?
So the applicant for the Elm Street is Elm Street Property LLC, 66 Watersview Drive, Wethersfield, Connecticut, also known as the DiCiaccio. If you recall, the property on Elm Street that had been subject to a previous proposal. So that is that particular property. The Middletown Avenue property is owned by the Wethersfield Game Club, care of 186 Middletown Avenue.
And are these permitted uses?
That is a good question. These are temporary uses, so, it's not a permanent land use, so
They weren't looked at from that perspective?
yeah, they weren't looked at from that perspective. They were lumped in with the category, subject to special permit review and conditions related to the site. So since they're not permanent uses, it's a different kind of an application than you would normally be used to. We have allowed a construction, sites in other locations under the same concept, subject to special permits before. So that's how we got these before you today.
Sure, yeah.
While she's on her way up, is it just as long as we leave the site exactly the way, or as is?
Yeah, it's a similar condition, stabilized and, left in a good condition. Obviously, in the one in the meadows, we would want the...
Do they need to plant or anything? Do they need
Well,
to put some
right now,
grass
I don't know if you got a chance to go down to the Elm Street property, but...
in? I was thinking more of the game clothes.
Yeah, so that one is under cultivation right now, is like similar to the surrounding properties. The one on Middletown Avenue actually has a gravel, looks like it was used historically for something similar.
Yeah, at the entryway, but behind there.
Yeah, if going pretty far back, there's a
Grass is-
flat, significantly sized area, and then there's sort of an access road runs along the tree line that is also gravel, and then the rest of it is grass. And somebody's been maintaining it, mowing it, so you're going to stay within that vegetated or unvegetated area based on your plans I saw?
Right, we're using the gravel driveway, the parking lot,
Yep.
and the grass area.
Right.
I believe the limits are spelled out on the
Yep.
plan.
The only other things I wanted to ask were what the zones were in these two areas. Like, is Middletown Avenue residential?
The Middletown, the Elm Street is agricultural zone as is obvious, and then the Middletown Avenue is a mixture of agriculture and residential.
So
there's
both of them
there's
have, one is strictly agriculture and the other one's mixed?
Correct.
Okay. And the last thing is, I was thinking about the most direct route for these kinds of materials to be trucked. And I was wondering if in the Rocky Hill area, because they have a lot of industrial sites and other things, if there was any open space there for these materials, at least for the Elm Street area, to be stored, and so that it could come directly down the Salstein Highway, and that we could stay out of Elm Street altogether. That's just my last question.
Thank you. We'll ask the applicant when he comes back up. You're the only one who hasn't spoken. Are you here to, no? Okay. All right. Would you join us again then? Thank you. So the lingering question was perhaps more generically, did you look at other sites other than Elm? Elm obviously was going to be a little bit more sensitive.
Yes, I did. I was looking for 3 weeks to a month. It's not a lot of places around. It's very minute, and that's why I try to break up these two sites so I could keep the job materials on one and bring the earth materials to another, because I can't get one that can do both,
So what we heard from one of the members of the public was concern about dust control, water erosion.
Street size.
No sidewalks.
So I'm kind of just, let me just stick to the environmental side of it. What is the next step if they were to be given approval? Is there a wetland permit that they will go for?
They did go already to the Wetlands Commission. I didn't
apologize.
see the actual approval letters in your correspondence. I don't know that we actually got those yet, but as was testified, the location on Elm Street, they did attach conditions regarding flooding events and that the material be pulled out of there. I'm not sure what other, I don't know if you brought with you your approval letter. I have not seen those. They did, however, get approved by the Wetlands Commission.
And so in that submission to the Wetlands Commission, you would have shown the 4 piles or 5 piles, right?
No, I didn't show
They
the
didn't?
amount of piles, I just showed it was storage of earth.
So they didn't ask
No,
for
they
said
didn't.
control plans or anything and
No.
approve your said control plans?
No.
Is that something the town staff would be looking at when the time comes?
That would be something we would typically want to see, the extent of erosion control, any notes
Well,
regarding dust control and
Yeah,
those
the
kind of
erosion,
things.
the erosion control was on there, the silt fence, the anti-tracking pad, that was all.
On the Middletown Avenue, but we're talking about the Elm Street.
That, there as well.
Okay,
It was on
I
there.
guess we didn't get that. You didn't submit that to us. All we got was the sketch that showed the 110 by 150.
It just has the words on it.
Yeah. So I haven't seen those.
Tracking pad to be installed, perimeter to have silt fence. It's under the notes.
Oh, just the notes, okay.
So the other, so that's really runoff, runoff and the environmental controls, I'm confident staff, knowing our town engineer, will ensure that that stuff is taken care of. The other things that we heard were requested a pre-construction survey of the structure adjacent to this and screening. Your thoughts on those issues?
We are doing some other house inspections in the area for some, blasting that we're going to be doing up the street more. So, we could always do a house inspection on this gentleman's as well, if that would, if you'd be happy with that. And screening, I'm not sure what kind of screening we're looking for here.
Is there gonna be any, only your loader, it's probably gonna be the only oversized going on in there, or just the dozer and a loader?
What site, Elm Street?
I'm sorry, yes, the Elm Street site.
Elm Street would just be a loader, yeah, it can be a loader there, yeah.
And honestly, screening is going to end up being 5 or 6 foot arborvitaes, right? Which, if your piles are 15 feet high, maybe, would you like to throw something out, Mike?
Yeah, like I said, I got a copy of the wetlands permit for the Middletown Avenue site now. Our house is probably maybe 70 feet from the entrance where the equipment is gonna go in and out. I didn't see anything in there about storing of the actual equipment. I did see pipe structures and other solid type of items going in there. And I was told that there was a concern by the town engineer and the inland wetlands agent of any kind of spillage. So I thought that the storage of the machinery was not going to be there. Could be wrong on that. But again, it's very close, and that's why I was asking for the screening. And quite honestly, I think, the arborvitaes and everything like that, I think it's a good approach. But certainly, I think if we had a chain link fence with the screening slats put in there, I think it becomes a little bit easier. And that can be removed afterwards when the project is done. Because again, that property next door to us is a great place. We see turkeys, we see coyotes, we see deer in there. I mean, it's really a nice look. So when it gets restored and returned back to its natural state, all that stuff can be taken out. So whether the arborvitaes are putting in there, that's more of a permanent type of screening, where I think we would certainly be satisfied with either one or both. And just the question about the 55 flood. When that came in, Middletown Avenue was completely underwater. We could not get into the house. Our house was the only thing, it was a little island in a sea of water from there. And it was so deep, the only way we could get to it was by boat. We had to wait until the water receded. So again, the same issues that you have on flooding on Elm Street certainly apply to Middletown Avenue also, because you've got about the same elevation and you're going to have about the same amount of water backing up.
So Mike, in terms of fencing, potential fencing with slats in it, help me understand where that would go. We asked a question about whether security was something that they would want to address anyways. Where are you thinking Is it the first 100 feet of the going in from the property?
Yeah,
What's,
if they went back along the property line, go back 100 feet or so, because I think, Louis, you said that.
Well, there's that big tree, big bush there. We're pretty much in front of that, so we pretty much just got to go back to that,
Yeah,
that big thing
I mean,
right.
I think
Yeah.
that would be reasonable, because again, you know, how far do you go with this? We're just looking, want to make sure that, you know, that one, we can enjoy the property, and two, that we don't, you know, lose any prospective buyers simply because of, you know, the temporary construction project. So, yeah, 100 feet or so, and I'm sure we could work it out in there, but again, I want to go on the record so that you guys felt some of the concerns that I was expressing.
if it became a condition of an approval, would that be acceptable to you then?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Other questions for the applicant? All right.
Truck route from Middletown Avenue, you going all the way to Route 3, or you're gonna take a left onto Mill and get to 5th Highway?
No, I'm going to take a left on Mill, then go to Silas, go up Silas, take a left, take a right on Route 3, then go down to Elm. And the vehicles coming in with material, either they'll be getting off, you know, they'll be getting off up 99 up that way more, or they'll have to come down to 99 on the 99 exit and come back up that way. You know, if they can't take a left over there off the highway. Going to Elm Street.
Can't get DOT to give a temporary turn there?
I doubt it.
Not a safe place.
No one's
that's
ever,
not safe.
no one's
You're
ever
right, I
turned in
think
the
every
history of that road either.
No.
All right. Okay, so we have 2 hearings. Let's deal with them separately, unless one last call. Comments? All right. And questions to the applicant? All right. So 2 different hearings. Could I have some motions, please? Separately?
Motion to close both hearings.
Or both, I guess. Second, please, somebody. Tony, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll deal with the motions separately. Shall we start with Middletown Avenue?
I'll go on record as saying it's somebody else's turn.
You
And I-
always give us the complicated one.
Tony?
Yeah, let somebody else learn how to make a
On the
motion.
To approve it, through the application, we are at the Middletown Avenue application, the number of stipulations. The application number,
Which one we're doing?
1947-17 We talked about screening, in coordination with the town.
And the adjacent property owner.
Adjacent property owner. Environmental controls, town approvals, or town review, right, working with the town. Dust control. We talked about house inspection. We talked about the truck route via Middletown to Mill Street, there should be stipulation. And also cleaning and sweeping of the streets, again, in coordination with the town.
Right. And basically, it's a pre,
That's here as well.
Housekeeping.
The June 2nd, 2017 memo from Peter, for stipulations.
Property restoration.
Property restoration.
Silt fence.
Silt fence again,
ENS controls.
ENS, and what's the fourth one? Upon completion, private well-disturbed areas must be restored to the pre-construction elevations and conditions and to the satisfaction of the town.
Second.
all right. So we have a first and a second by George. All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Let's deal with the second one. Do it again, Tony.
Anyone else? All right, let's try it again. Recommendation to approve the application.
Last one. 19.
Application number 1948-17Z. Again, the June 2nd memo, to planning and zoning from Peter, 5 stipulations, I won't read them all, but it's stated in the memo. And
fence?
No, not this one.
No fencing here.
No fence.
If we get the truck route,
Truck route condition.
number 6,
In the road condition.
Precondition survey and post-condition for the road.
Second.
And the first 4 took care of all the environmental issues anyway, so, okay.
I have just a thought on this. Elm Street it doesn't really set well with me. There are young people in the neighborhood, as Mr. Anderson cited, and no sidewalks. The road was never designed and the neighborhood is not accustomed to heavy truck traffic like this. Granted, there are some farmers that have some heavy rigs coming out of there on a very minimal basis. I see a problem when one of the farmers comes out with his oversized load with his harvester on the back, and this guy's, he's a couple feet off on each side. And then they have either delivery coming, the guy's not, perfectly on time, and no one knows when they're coming out of the meadows. And you have triaxles coming down the road. There's nowhere for these guys to go. You're not backing down on Route 3. And the road conditions, I can see the town getting into a finger pointing, one of these, who broke the road, who's gonna fix the road. I understand it's a critical project. Middletown Avenue, I was comfortable with, because within the construction zone, that is what it is. He's gonna be blasting over there, he's gonna be tunneling, he's gonna be doing everything within that construction zone. Elm Street, I'm just not comfortable with. You have an environmental impact there. A lot of people in this town have put a lot of effort in to preserve and protect the meadows. And there was just there was a tour, I believe, of the Meadows Conservation, that wooded area on the corner of Maple and Middletown. I think they had a tour or some type of event on, I believe it was Sunday, because they were all in that parking lot. And we're lucky to have that. Over the years, there's been a lot of things tried to be done, from dog racetracks on Elm Street to develop it, and none of that has ever taken any traction. There's been huge resistance in this town. Like I said, I understand the cruciality of this project you're working on, but to sacrifice something that we have probably isn't in our best interest. We're gonna strip the topsoil off, stack it. We're gonna have probably 3,000 yards of material when you include the topsoil on the site. That's probably 200 truckloads to get it out of there. And they're gonna make their best effort. But if they had to remove it, 200 truckloads, in how long? Elm Street's not even gonna be there. I'm just not comfortable with it. I know he's stressed on the site, but.
So you would say we should vote against it? Is that what you're getting at?
I really in good conscience, and I looked at Mr. Anderson and whatnot, I can't support it. There's gotta be, it might be difficult, but I think there's a better location. I don't have it off my cuff, but I'm just not comfortable with it.
I agree that Elm Street is extremely narrow. It's more almost to accommodate a school bus going down the thing with a car. But nevertheless, he's got to find somewhere else, and that may not be easily done, as he indicated, but he may want to speak to that.
And
with reduced hours of operation, he's assuming that the applicant will
I've thought about that, because I'm sure he would do, it just comes down to the magnitude. He needs a lot of material on the site. It's when he includes the topsoil, 3,000 yards in this, it's a lot of traffic in and out of there. We're not talking pickup trucks, we're talking triaxles. These guys, hey, they're gonna be going slow because they can't go fast. But you go down that street with a school bus coming the other way, or picking up your kids, it's just a tight fit.
Jim, could he have a little turnoff about halfway down somewhere that he could release from somebody?
Probably in someone's yard, because they're all.
I know, it's tight in there.
It's not, there's no curbs, it's not even, Mr. Anderson said it, the road's been like that as long as I can tell you.
I know. I don't know.
Because when they
I
put
don't
the
use
Jehovah,
it, but I know it's that way.
if you look back in the history, and Mr. Anderson probably tell you this, when they put the Jehovah Witness Hall in, look how the road's different up to the Jehovah Witness Hall. It's wide and it goes right down. And we have something here, like I said, a lot of people put a lot of effort into preserving it. And just, those are just my feelings on it.
So, you know, the constraints of the access, I get it. But I also get that there probably aren't any good sites. We're gonna say no if he wants to do it. You know, knock down the Weight Watcher. No, maybe we'll do that, right? Knock down the Weight Watcher and pile it all there, but we're not gonna let him go. But there aren't too many places.
I was thinking putting it in the Weight Watchers facility on the asphalt in the back. It's already fenced in.
There's not enough room
Mr.
there.
Chairman, can I ask,
can't-
can I ask the applicant a question that might help here?
No.
Not really, it's
Can you,
closed.
No, the
Hearing-
hearing's closed.
George is close.
oh, I'm sorry. Can you get another site down in Rocky Hill, or you have to work with that site?
I've looked in Wethersfield, I've looked in Rocky Hill, there's very, what the?
So,
You know, I'm just saying, I'm only one voice here. I'm not, you know, just, I can't think of a solution, just the impact of this in that neighborhood. The heaviest thing coming out of there is Winding Brook's trailer with turf. Each trailer probably once, maybe twice a day at peak season. Maybe. And they're coming out in Rocky Hill, they're coming out from 3 to 4 different locations they exit. You know, or, you know, a John Deere tractor with a load of hay. It just doesn't, and not in keeping with the neighborhood at
I
all.
think it'll be beyond the 15 trucks that were testified earlier.
I can't speculate to that, but if I have 3,000 yards there, and he has to move it in a hurry, attempt to move it in a hurry, hey, it's a big project, it's an invasive project, and it's an invasive project.
Right now, we're
Yes,
going
it's
at
needed.
15 already.
Yes, it's needed, but at whose cost and what cost should,
But we're voting on 15 trucks, that's what he testified at, that's why I asked the question.
no one's sitting there gonna be counting them, and if
Well,
he's in an emergency,
Emergency situation.
and the whole thing's an emergency situation, I mean, the catch basin, the manhole covers.
Now, my
They're
understanding
fountains.
is that it's 3 trips, or 3 trucks with each having 15 loads a day, that's 45.
right.
45 in, 45 out.
15,
No, you said 15 trips each truck, that's
Right.
what I heard.
Right.
we're at 45 now.
Yeah.
And
In and out.
And I have similar concerns. It's sort of a damned if you do and damned if you don't kind of situation. I mean, this is a project with a tremendous public utility behind it. I mean, not by utility. I'm not talking about MDC, but in terms of the public purpose of the project and how that project, does affect the residents of Wethersfield if it's somehow stalled or discontinued, not accomplished. On the other hand, I'm really concerned about the issue of safety and the damages to the roadway and to adjacent properties with these heavy loads with this many trips a day, and the risks to people on such a narrow road. My mind has kind of thought about the possibility of bonding, but that has a lot of disadvantages, and I'm not sure if it's applicable in this situation anyway. So, I'm looking, for someone to come up with a solution that contains wisdom of Solomon here, and I don't see it.
I know it's not ideal, but if he has an alternate, the emergency site that's in Hartford, where all this stuff he's gonna attempt to move it to, I mean, I understand what it means, mileage in a truck and efficiency and costs and all that stuff, but in the greater good of it, but it's at whose expense? And the road's just not set up for it. You know, I can just see it now. The standoff on this road or on people's front yards, and not that even if you're gonna fix it or restore it or whatever, it's just,
So Peter and Denise, did you help the applicant find potential sites?
No, we were contacted once the sites were selected. I did not give much thought. As you were talking, I was going through in my mind where some possible
Put 'em next
areas
to
might
Dave
be.
Ambrose's piles.
Yeah.
Peter, would you want to give the applicant a couple weeks maybe on this one to see if there is another alternative? I will be voting for this. Unlike Jim, I'll be voting against it, and maybe Tom, but I'll tell you, I'll vote for it. I don't like it, but it's the answer that probably we have to come up with. But maybe if the town staff talks and presses with him on matters and town engineer and so forth, maybe you might come up with a solution. I'm willing to put it off.
Well, my concern was originally in favor of it, but, and I admit, I usually look at all the sites. I did not look at this site. Be honest with you, I looked at everything else. I've taken rides through other potential projects. But if it's a health and safety thing, I certainly don't want to see somebody injured because of a tractor coming by with a load of hay or corn or whatever it is down that road. I'm familiar with the road. I don't know how our public safety people feel about that application.
and all you gotta do is get one wheel off the road there, because you're in a floodplain. And,
So, do you think it would be of any value to make an effort to try and help this individual find another property? As he indicated, I'm not surprised, Puritan said no thanks.
Well, if this is not the site you want to approve, if he finds another site, he's going to have to go through the same process, notify neighbors. It's a special permit. So I'm more than happy to give some thought to it, but he'd have to then reapply. If he found a site, he'd have to negotiate with the property owner, so that's a whole nother process he would have to go through. So you need to just keep that in mind.
Would it hold up the project then, is what you're saying?
They have a schedule, and as you heard, he's already getting ready to start the project. So how critical this is to the project, that, I can't really, it's at a critical time, but obviously you've got to review the application on its own merits and deal with it as you feel, you need to, so.
We don't have a motion just to close the hearing.
No, we have a motion.
It hasn't been seconded yet.
and I also thought
Can you
about
have a
saying,
motion
okay, give
without
them 6.
prejudice?
I also considered in my mind, let's give them 6 months, let's give them 9 months. Well, you can't pull a carpet out from them in the middle of this type of project. Well, no, too many people complain, stop what you're doing. That is.
If you have a motion without prejudice, means he can come right back if this thing went down to defeat. And, maybe we could take a vote tonight along those lines. I don't know. What are the answers, Mr. Chairman?
Well, the motion's
Peter,
to
what do you
approve,
say?
so I don't think that's
Right.
without prejudice.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So we do have a motion to approve in a second. Let's take the vote. Dan, you're out, as you have been on the other ones, okay, as the alternate.
Don't get all dressed up for nothing.
Exactly. All righty. Again, motion is to approve. So all those in favor, again, this is Elm Street, say aye.
Aye.
And maybe just raise your hand for me. So got 1, Tony, myself, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'll vote for it, reluctantly.
Reluctantly, 6. All right. So we have 6 positives.
No half raising your hand.
The nays would be Jim and Rich and Yolanda. You were
Yeah, I was for it.
for it. Okay, so it passes 6-3. Ready? Get it done quick.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Don't break the house, and don't break the road, and don't break any people.
Do what you can, do what you can about Elm Street though, as far as that passing issue. That's serious. Yeah.
Good evening, thank you.
Okay.
I assume we have minutes. George, did you review the minutes?
No, I read 2/3 of them. And we corrected some of them already, but I'm not ready to really I don't want to vote for it, I'm not going to make a motion. If somebody else wants to do it, that's fine.
Motion to approve.
Ryan? Is that you, Ryan? Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll make a motion, approve.
It's already been done, second for you.
Oh, second.
Dan, you were here? Okay.
Yeah, my only comment is, on page 13, you can't have 11 people voting.
Also, there are 111,
On
there were
page-
11 units on the first page, we corrected that.
We did?
already.
11 units?
Oh, the same 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So is that really what I said? And all are participating?
11 units.
Well, we were just doing the hearing at least.
Ah, right, we weren't voting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So Dan, I'd rather you not make a motion. We got enough without you, don't we? Let's stick with the other nine people here tonight.
We just have to remember that Dan gets to play next time.
Yeah, exactly. So Rich, would you do me a favor and second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Done. Please check the number of people. No, there was no voting, right? But that's the bottom of this one.
Just
had
to
no voting.
continue the hearing.
Oh, okay. What else? Anything?
Staff.
Staff report, a couple of things. The signage subcommittee is meeting for the first time on Thursday. So I did advertise it as a special planning and zoning meeting just to ensure no one has a FOI issue with that. So you're all certainly welcome to attend that, but I think Dave, Rich, and Dan are the three who are planning on attending. I've also invited Bruce Boxstall from the Design Review, just so they have an opportunity to weigh in on the potential changes to the sign regulations. Additionally, this town engineer and I are reviewing our existing site plan and plot plan requirements. The new stormwater requirements that are coming out require that we review some of these regulations for compliance with that. So we will be providing you with drafts of those changes relatively soon, at some point, probably in the summertime. At your next meeting, the 1881 Berlin Turnpike, the gas station and self-storage project that we've talked about a couple times, we are hoping is in a position to be heard at that meeting. So that's why it's not listed as pending to be heard at a future meeting, because there's still some question on that, but nevertheless. And then lastly,
Excuse me, did they transfer property over there? I saw it in the Current this week.
1881 Berlin Turnpike? I don't
someone-
think they've transferred ownership. Carmen Anthony's did transfer ownership.
I thought it might be.
Oh, really? What is it?
They haven't come in to talk to us about what they want to do.
Nothing obvious.
Well, remains to be seen, but it was highly unusual that they bought the property without talking to us about what they want to do.
Somebody must be interested, I hope.
Yeah, so there you go. Temporary stockpiles. Lastly, when Lucky Lou's outdoor patio was last approved back in 2016, there was a condition that staff provide you with an annual report. It's that time to provide you with that annual report. So you should be aware, so that permit you gave to him until 2021. That was one of the conditions. You attached a 10 p.m. limit on Sundays through Thursdays, 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. They were still subject to the town noise ordinances. They were required to submit a tree buffer planting plan for approval by town staff, and lastly, the annual report. We have not yet received the tree buffer planting plan. I've asked for that a couple of times, so we are still waiting for that. And then you should be aware that during 2016, there were 3 violations of the noise ordinance. On June 10th, there was a warning issued by the police department. That was a Friday night at about 10:30. On Friday night, June 24th, at close to 11, there was a noise ticket issued, and that was a Friday night. On September 17th, which was a Saturday night at about 10:30, there was a noise ticket issued for violation of the noise ordinance. So with those matters in mind, I asked the zoning officer to send Mr. Kyriakis a certified notice, which he did, and indicating, that they'd violated the noise ordinance 3 times last year. Please try not to do that in no uncertain terms, and that please submit the tree buffer planting plan to our office. He gave him a deadline of May 31st to submit the plan, and a deadline of June 30th to have the plantings installed. As of today, we do not have the plan. So we did receive a letter from his attorney on May 17th indicating that they have every intention of proceeding with the planting plan. Somehow they wanted to put the burden on the town to help submit the, prepare the plan, but that's really not our responsibility. The zoning officer did contact the attorney to make that clear to her that it's really their responsibility. They indicated that due to the cool spring and the rain, so I'm not sure why it wasn't submitted last year, but nevertheless, that is the response. And lastly, my client is diligently adhering to the noise ordinances in order to protect his viable business, which ultimately benefits the town. So, per your conditions of approval, I wanted to provide you with that annual report for your information and for your guidance.
Thank you.
I will say this about Lou, and I'll say it publicly. I think he thinks because he rents or leases from the town at our public building, that somehow we should be assisting him in some way. I'm not sure I agree with him on that, but that's part of, I think, this issue. But maybe I'm wrong. I hope he comes through for you.
He'll come through.
I guess my thought is that if you don't see anything by the end of June, maybe we can do something more than a letter.
Yeah, I think since we established some specific deadlines, which have come and gone, that the next order of business, and obviously it's up to the zoning officer, is the issuance of fines. Those seem to get people's attention much faster than just letters pointing out some inconsistency. So that would normally be the next step. And then after that, I would bring it back to you guys to see if you wanted to take further action in terms of the status of his permit. And just for the record, I believe the neighbor who has been monitoring this is in the audience tonight, and under public comment, she may want to add and or follow up to that.
Well, with that segue. Can I come up then? Sure.
Maria Spalla, 36 Marsh Street. I think you've seen me here now for 5 years. It's the same story. I mean, the trees were supposed to be planted actually 3 years ago. And, now we're at this, he doesn't even have, a plan available. And he started playing already. This year he's playing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So Thursday I had to call the police already. Unfortunately, the second I hung up, he stopped playing. So, this is just an absolute nightmare for me, absolute nightmare. If he played within the town ordinance and planted the trees, we could live, we could cohabit here. But he refuses to do that. So I'm responsible for calling the police all the time. And the fact is, even if I don't do it, so if, like on a couple of nights I'm just tired or I don't want to deal with the police, what happens is it just gets louder. It's like a spoiled child. No one's watching, I'll just keep getting louder and louder and not do anything about it. And you can tell, the second it gets dark, the music gets louder and louder. And then if he sees the police cars come through, then he lowers the volume. It's a game. And it's like, I live there, I'm a taxpayer, there's no way I can escape this. And now, like I said, 4 nights out of the week. And it's for 4 hours, it's constant pounding, loud noise. Most of the time I can't even hear my TV. It's ridiculous. I have a 3-season porch, I can't even sit on the 3-season porch. 5 months of the year now with him. And it all boils down to if he would just be responsible. Then I wouldn't have any complaints. I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't have any complaints. And the times that he plays within the ordinance, it's manageable. It's just that it stays at that point for maybe an hour, and he goes beyond it. And so last year you gave him a 5-year permit, and so he thought, well, he's on Easy Street now, and so the complaints. And there would have been more, but sometimes I'm out on those nights when he's playing. It's absolutely untenable. I can't imagine any of you playing, buying a house, not knowing this, and then having to listen to loud pounding music and calling the police all the time. So, my feeling is he doesn't, tickets do nothing. It's the cost of business for him. They're a nominal amount, doesn't affect his behavior whatsoever. My feeling would be, at this point, where he's not even bothered to plant the trees or comply with the ordinances on a regular basis, that you start pulling the permit for 15 or 30 days at a time. So it really affects him and motivates him to at least be a good citizen and participate responsibly in this. This in my mind was a privilege to try out music in that area. And again, if he cooperated, it might have, in my mind, been semi-successful.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Is this open for discussion, or?
Yeah, it's over.
It's like, so like if he, it's easy there. If, we would bring somebody like that in because, this is somebody who's not listening to
So there is,
the decision that we had made and just say, okay, now it's 9 o'clock.
there's such a thing as a show cause hearing, where a zoning officer would issue him an order giving him the opportunity to appear in front of this commission for consideration of revoking the permit, modifying the conditions, and/or whatever other actions you might want to apply. So he would be given the opportunity to come in and explain his situation, why he feels he's entitled to continue as a permit, and then also providing the public with the opportunity to either refute or agree with what it is he's saying. So that is a tool available at the appropriate
Have we used it
time.
much?
You haven't used it since I've been
I don't
here.
think-
I've used it in other towns, but, oh, definitely, yeah.
Does it work?
Well, if you revoke his permit, he doesn't have a permit, he's not entitled to do what he's doing, so.
Could you use that process to modify the permit? And
Yeah,
say,
sure.
Because I'd rather say, okay, stop playing at 9 so that the musicians who are booked
Yep.
through the summer
Yep.
aren't kind of left scrambling.
Yeah, he would be issued an order that would say this show cause hearing is being held for the purposes of A, B, C, D, or all of the above.
I just didn't know if it was only like all on or all off, or if we we can bring.
No, you can modify it, you could revoke the whole thing, I mean, so, roll it back, whatever you see fit, so that's certainly, on the menu if that's the way, wants to go.
So is that something you might put in this fine?
Start with fines and then.
Let him know, I mean, the order that was issued to him, the fines are as much as $150 a day.
It's a decent.
So, yeah, that adds up pretty quick. But, yeah, I mean, if it's continuing in violation until he complies, I don't know if that would get his attention. But, yeah, revoking the permit, clearly, I mean, that's he's the only game in town in terms of the outdoor entertainment venues. So I guess we'll have to see what the response is and, what his reaction to it is, and then kick it up again, so, if need be.
It may be good weather coming up for him, but also planting time is here now.
Yes, that was why we gave him the deadlines that we did, so he could give us a plan, we would have time to review it, and then he could plant whatever it is before the weather turns for the worst in terms of the hot weather.
Everything would have grown very well.
Yes, it would have.
He's already open. I mean, that was-
Oh, no, definitely, he's open, so.
Anything else for Peter, Denise? Your motion? Getting late.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. Anybody opposed to that?
Motion to go to bed.